Hello everyone, welcome to today's stream, and today I am hosting the pre-launch of or a hosted pre-launch show of SpaceX NASA Crew Dragon Demo Mission 2 or DM-2. So what we're going to be doing today, let me just, before we go to the stream itself, is I'm going to host a pre-launch from now on both YouTube and Twitch, okay, which is fine because I'm not affiliate, and that means that I'm allowed to do it. From about an hour before launch, or predicted launch time, Space Lab is actually going to take over the stream, okay, on YouTube, and I'm going to continue on Twitch, and we're going to do a bit, as things ramp up, we're going to do a bit more, okay, and talk a bit more and all of that. So link to him on the description below, okay, and do hit the like button and all of that. So without further ado, we'll go over to Gary Jordan, I suppose, and we'll listen in. And I will do my best to answer questions as we go. So let's do it.
Space Station. It remains staffed 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And today the team is especially focused on monitoring today's launch operations and making final preparations for Bob and Doug to dock with the station tomorrow morning. Today I'm joined remotely by NASA astronaut Rex Walheim, who was on that last flight from American shores 9 years ago, STS-135, with Doug Hurley. Rex flew on 2 shuttle missions before that and is now the Deputy Director of Safety and Mission Assurance here at the Johnson Space Center. Rex, thank you for joining me.
My pleasure, Gary. Nice to be here.
Now, Rex, we're closing in on the suit-up process for Bob and Doug down at the Cape. What were some of the thoughts going through your head as part of the crew suiting up for a shuttle flight for the very last time?
It's just it's a really exciting time. You've kind of practiced it many times before, but you know this is for real. But again, you never know for sure whether it's going to be for real. So for STS-135, we only had a 30% chance of launching on our actual launch day. So you're thinking, yeah, it's probably not going to happen. But you know, we got to be ready for game day, and so you get suited up. And you walk out those storied corridors where Neil Armstrong walked out before he went to the moon, and get on the Astrovan in our case and head out to the launch pad.
Rex, as I recall, the weather was not so favorable for STS-135 in the beginning of the day, but started looking a little bit better towards launch time, and you were able to get off the pad, though you had to scrub for weather on 110 and a few times on 122. It seems to be a normal thing for human spaceflight.
Yes, it is. It's like I say, you never know what your launch day is, so you have to be prepared anyways, no matter whether the vehicle may have issues that they're working at the last minute or the weather may not cooperate. So you get ready and do the countdown. And on STS-135, yeah, it didn't look very good. Like I said, we had only a 30% chance of go. And so we got out there anyways, and we got strapped in, and we weren't sure whether there was going to be go or not. And our commander looked outside and said, well, I got good news and I got bad news. The bad news is it's raining, but the good news is it looks like it's clearing to the west. And sure enough, they brought the count back down to T-9, where they checked the weather, and they decided it was go. And so, hey, we're going. This is going to be great. Then they brought the countdown all the way down to 31 seconds, and the clock stopped. We didn't get any alarms or anything, and we're kind of looking around, what's going on? And we heard over the intercom that the launch was halted due to a malfunction. And we're like, you know, what kind of malfunction? And sure enough, we figure, okay, well, now we're not going to launch for sure. It's just 31 seconds from launch. We've only got like a minute hold time, and so your mood starts going down, and figure, well, doesn't look like it was going to be it. But turned out the team at the Kennedy Space Center knew what the problem was. They wanted to make sure that the gaseous oxygen hood, the arm, had moved out of the way so the shuttle could launch. They took a camera, verified it was, then they picked up the count. And when they pick up the count from 31 seconds, they think, holy cow, now we really are going. And so it doesn't give you a whole lot of time to collect your thoughts. But all of a sudden, T-6 seconds, the engines start up, and at T-0, you feel that big jolt. And hey, it is today. And you get ready to do the mission.
Well, here's to hoping for the best today. NASA astronaut Rex Walheim, thank you for joining us. Let's go back to the Kennedy Space Center to watch the suit up in action as we continue to count down to launch. Leland.
I like that.
Hey, thanks, Gary. Hey, Rex.
Yeah, 31 seconds, so and we go. Bye.
STS-122. And I remember you turning to me saying, hey, Leland, it's going to be great. You're going to do great. And you made me feel so good about launching into space. And I just really appreciate your support and your kindness. And that was a great mission, and I really appreciate you, man.
Hey, it was great fun, Leland, but you're a pretty big guy, and so you didn't exactly leave a lot of space sitting next to you on launch for your buddy here. I kind of had to, kind of scrunch myself to the side. I remember that one sim we had where we put our spacesuits on and got into the simulator, got all strapped in, and you being a former NFL player, having played professional football, like I say, there wasn't a whole lot of room for me, so I kind of squeezed my way the best I could. But I remember saying to our commander, Steve Frick, I said, hey, Steve, next time we fly with a professional athlete, why don't we pick a jockey? So it was a little bit, crowded there, but it was a wonderful flight, and it was absolute pleasure to fly with you, Leland.
Likewise. And when you came home on 135, I was with your family. I remember it was a night landing, and I said, hey, Fergie's back, and your son, I'll never forget this, he said, hi, Dad, and it's all about the families, and you did such a great job on that mission, flying with Doug on that last shuttle mission. So thank you, Rex, for everything you've done. We're going to go live in crew quarters in a minute and see Bob and Doug suiting up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Thanks,
so
Rex. My takeaway from
look,
what Rex had
weather
to say
looks
is
good,
telling me there's a chance.
but it might get worse.
There's
It's still
a chance.
4
There's a pretty
hours.
good chance, actually, 50% in fact. And the astronaut crew quarters is where astronauts live in seclusion before missions to space, and it's where Bob and Doug have been living for the past 10 days. Now, the suit-up room inside of the crew quarters is something of a national landmark in and of itself. This room was first used as a suit-up room for Apollo 7 back in October 1968. And for every crew mission since then, when launching from U.S. soil, serving 400 different astronauts on a total of 150 missions, this is the room where Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins suited up over 50 years ago, where astronauts John Young and Robert Crippen suited up for the first shuttle flight, STS-1, back in 1981. And for every shuttle flight over the next 30 years, think of that. Every flight to the moon, every flight of Skylab and Apollo Soyuz, and every single space shuttle flight started in that room. And Leland, I know many of us have experienced some form of quarantine over the last several months, but I would imagine that 2 weeks in quarantine in preparation for a space flight is unlike any other time in your life. What were some traditions that took place?
Oh, we would get together and sit down and sometimes tell jokes and try to make the mood a little bit lighter. We would review our notes and things, but we would bring our families in and have a crew meal together with our families, and that was really touching. And it's just card games, different things to get ready for that iconic mission to space.
Absolutely. In many ways, everything prior to this moment was preparation, and everything after this is the mission. And prior to Wednesday's first attempt that we told you about, the suit-up room was last used for the final shuttle flight, STS-135, in 2011. And I want to mention one more detail about that mission. We want to show you a picture of the crew from the last American spaceflight launching from U.S. soil. In the picture, if we can bring it up, you'll see Doug Hurley. There it is, Doug Hurley.
Nice.
He was the pilot for STS-135. Today he is the commander of DM-2, the spacecraft commander. Also suiting up for that mission was Chris Ferguson, Sandy Magnus, and Rex Walheim, who we just heard from a few minutes ago. And we are standing by to go into the suit-up room. We just passed the T-minus 4 hour mark, so suit-up is just beginning now, and there is our first look in the room. There is astronaut Doug Hurley getting into his spacesuit, and he's being helped by one of the suit technicians there. So this is our first look in the room. Again, Doug Hurley, he has flown into space 2 times before. He was the pilot on STS-127 and 135. And there's a wider shot. You can see astronaut Bob Behnken also in view now. Bob is to the right of your screen, and he also flew on 2 shuttle missions. Bob is a native of St. Anne, Missouri. So if you're watching from Missouri, especially St. Anne, wave hi, there's Bob. And Doug is from Appalachian, New York. He was born in Endicott, considers Appalachian his hometown. I know a lot of people there because I'm from there too, so if you're watching from upstate New York, shout out to you there too. This is so cool to see. Leland, this must bring back memories for you.
It does, but it's a little different than when I was suiting up, because there were Apollo era lazy boys that were sitting in and leaning back in, and now they're in these really incredible sleek suits, as well as these the seats that are actually the same seats that are in the Crew Dragon vehicle, and that's pretty amazing.
Yes, these seats are basically ground support equipment seats. They're pretty much the same as the ones in the vehicle, as Leland said. So what they're doing right now is strapping the crew into the seats to prepare for the 2 big checkouts that they're doing right now. They're going to do a comms check, a bidirectional comms check, where they're going to check that the microphones that are inside of the helmets that the crew are wearing, that the suit techs can communicate with them bidirectionally. And they'll also do a leak test, which is a pressure test where they'll pressurize the spacesuit. So the suits are much more than just futuristic looking outfits. They do look like they come from a sci-fi movie. But they, as we described, they're designed to connect directly into Dragon seats to provide communications, cooling, and the ability to pressurize if necessary. A moment ago, you may have seen one of the suit technicians attaching a big white umbilical to the leg of the suit. That is the way in which the communications and the airflow, all of that is happening through that umbilical, which is connected to the seat. So right now, as you can see, the team is getting the crew all buttoned up in their 5-point harnesses and getting ready for those checkouts.
And there's that worm again, Leland, right front and center. How does that make you feel on the spacesuit?
It makes me feel just great, Marie and Lauren. We have a lot of heritage and tradition with the meatball, but I'm able to be a little bit more flexible now that Lauren has beat this worm thing into me. No, but they're getting ready. They're focused. They've had breakfast. They've had chances to talk to friends and family, and it's getting real again. And that 50-50 chance, I'm seeing positive on 50% chance of going. Seeing the suit techs around them with these futuristic-looking flight suits versus the white suits that we've had in the past. It's transitioning from that old legacy to this new era in space travel. And I think working with NASA and SpaceX, working together as one team, it's just like what we do in space, work together as an international team to get things done.
Absolutely. And this group really gets to know each other well, too. There's a wave from Doug and a thumbs up. That's so cool to see. I mean, the people in that room get to know Bob and Doug really well because they've rehearsed this so many times, especially the suit techs. The suits are, custom made for each of the astronauts. So I feel like I couldn't even count the number of times they've had like suit fit checks and leak checks and just making sure every detail with the fit and the function is just perfect before they get ready to launch.
And interestingly enough, these suit techs are also the designers of the spacesuit. They've been working with the crew for years as we've been building these suits, their training suits, all of the training events in Hawthorne, where the crew is inside of the Buck, the capsule simulator. This is the team that's been working with them for years. The team that dressed Ripley, which is the ATD, the dummy that flew in Demo 1.
So mannequin, right?
Mannequin, Smarty.
There's
Smarty. Lots of names for Ripley.
But the point being, they've been with these suits from cradle to grave and have been working so closely with Bob and Doug.
Pressures and making sure everything looks good prior to arming the launch escape system, but not tracking a constraint at the moment. So overall, Dragon's healthy and ready for crew ingress.
Okay, thank you
Awesome.
for the update, MD. And this concludes the countdown briefing.
So you just heard in that briefing there, they're continuing to move forward towards launch. And as we have a view of Doug Hurley there adjusting his visor, again, he is the spacecraft commander for Demo 2. And while he continues the suit up process, we want to give you a closer look at the veteran Marine Corps fighter pilot and spaceflight pioneer.
Very excited. Yeah, very excited.
You feel ready? Feel pumped?
Oh yeah, I think we're ready. I think we're certainly ready.
Joining the SpaceX Demo 2 test. He is a Marine Corps colonel and test pilot. He was selected as an astronaut in 2000. He piloted Space Shuttle Endeavour and Atlantis for STS-135, the final space shuttle mission. Introducing NASA astronaut Doug Hurley.
It's a life-changing process in so many ways to fly into space. It's just overwhelming in some respects. Just the sensations, the rumbling, the shaking, the acceleration when the engines shut off and you go from in the case of the shuttle, you go from 3 Gs to 0 Gs instantaneously, and things start floating. And I remember distinctly just thinking, what just happened? To see a rocket launch in person is, it's a pretty emotional event. I remember the first time I saw a shuttle launch, and it was amazing. And then when I saw a shuttle launch with my wife on it, that is quite the emotional experience. My name is Doug Hurley, and I'm the spacecraft commander for the DM-2 mission to the International Space Station. We are doing the first crewed flight for NASA and for SpaceX. So this is the test flight to prove end-to-end from launch to docking to ISS operations and then entry, descent, and landing. This will be the first time the Dragon had a crew on board, and so there's a myriad of objectives we want to achieve for this mission. SpaceX has been responsible for design and essentially making this vehicle what it is. What the astronauts bring to the table is the crew vehicle interface. What would work on orbit, what might not work on orbit, what would definitely work. To be able to just have the entire integrated team that's going to support us getting to and from space station, talking together, working through the challenges that simulators typically throw at you. It was really neat being part of it. It's just been an incredible undertaking to see where we've come just in the last 5 years that Bob and I have been a part of this, and to be, shortly flying to the International Space Station with the Crew Dragon. It overwhelms you to think about how many people have, in some way, shape, or form, touched this program and this vehicle to get us to this point. And we are the lucky ones that get to fly it, but we certainly not for 1 second take for granted the amount of effort that so many other people had to put into this to make it successful.
For Doug personally, he's worked so hard, through his entire life, to get to where we are right now. As a test pilot, this would be the dream to fly a new vehicle. So it makes me so happy to see that he gets to be part of this mission, the spacecraft commander. I'm just glad to see his hard work and his dreams come true for that.
It's been a long road in a lot of ways for not only us, but certainly for all the folks that work in the Commercial Crew Program, as well as SpaceX in our case, just working to get to this point. It's been a huge amount of sacrifice and time away from home, but the fruits of our labor are coming to fruition.
Really well said there. I think I don't even think anything possible to add to that.
We are now getting closer to when we expect to see the crew complete their suit checks and walk out of the Neil Armstrong Operations and Checkout building.
And before they do, here's an introduction to the Joint Operations Commander for DM-2, who you see to the left of your screen there, former Air Force flight test engineer Bob Behnken.
When you go through the launch day preparations, there's a lot of moments that kind of stand out to you. One is the kind of the celebratory piece of it, which is that you're walking out of the suit up room and getting in the vehicle that's going to take you to the launch pad. When you close the hatch, that's really when Doug and I are in the vehicle, and it's our vehicle, and we're really in control of the mission at that point.
Hey there, Stoney. Welcome. Thanks for joining, man.
That man could fly into orbit around the Earth and return live and well.
I was just checking the old Discord, make sure I've not had any messages in there.
There's always a balance of managing risk as you go forward to execute a test point and figuring out a way
to I'm talking over the top of Bob Behnken, but at the minute looking 50-50 on launch. Currently outside the weather does look better than on Thursday. Hopefully it stays that way.
Happen like that on launching of a
but
vehicle.
yeah, generally it's better.
He is an Air Force colonel and flight test engineer.
I believe it was 40% chance on Thursday when I joined the stream anyway. So hopefully it goes the right way. I mean, I was
My
watching
career at NASA
Rex.
has kind of spanned a couple of
What's his
decades
name?
at
Rex
this point.
Walheim, is it?
I arrived with the class
Who
of
was
2000.
on STS
Went
135
through the
with
training
Doug.
program, primarily focused on the
And
space shuttle and the International
he was
Space
saying
Station,
that that
learning
launch
those
went ahead and
systems.
it was only
Having,
30%
launched a
chance.
couple times on vehicles.
I mean,
You know,
they had a
the
couple of holds, even
second
one
time
at
was
31
definitely different
seconds,
than the first
but
time.
they
You could feel
just,
a little bit guilty
yeah,
of,
they
hey, should I
managed
study
to
one
sort
more
it and
thing?
go.
Is there one more piece of information I should get? Am I really prepared or not? So that's definitely different between where I was on my first flight and where I'm at right now. It's been really interesting, I think, for both my wife and I to have gone through the process of seeing each other launch in space. I've seen her take that risk and had it be in front of her.
Yeah,
and,
he was saying that
I've done that to her. And there's just
when they were
something
launching,
different about
they
watching a
stopped at
rocket
31
launch when there
seconds
are
because they had a
people on board.
malfunction
You feel a little
in the
bit
launch
differently
tower, I
about the pit of
believe.
your stomach, and I can only tell you it's
With the cap
multiplied
that goes over the top
significantly
of
when it's somebody
tank,
that you know, and
the
then
oxygen
somebody,
cap.
of course, that's a family member. It's even multiplied.
And they held at
For me
31
personally,
seconds, and
as
they
a
said all of a
spouse,
sudden they got told they were
watching,
going, and
everything
boom,
that
it was
Bob
like
has put into
they didn't
this
even
over the
have
last 5 years.
they
The
didn't even have
dedication
a
that he's
chance
shown,
to
the
think about it
perseverance
before they were on the
is
way.
pretty special for both of us, though. The way our minds work, it won't be until sort of the mission is complete that you have really a chance to savor it and celebrate it. This is a huge accomplishment for an Air Force flight test engineer to be part of the
So I'm trying
demonstration
not
mission
to
of a brand
talk
new
too
vehicle.
much over
It's going to
people.
be amazing.
Yeah.
Without a partner that has that same appreciation, I think
Yeah,
it
it's
can
good.
be
It's
challenging
good.
for some folks. There's a lot of work and a lot of time that takes away from family that that my spouse appreciates, and I love her for that. Really, my role on the DM-2 mission is to make sure that we get this vehicle
Yes.
tested and evaluated so that we can move on to more operational missions at the International Space Station. We've got a lot of
Might have
objectives,
to make a
onboard the,
t-shirt on my
vehicles that we
Teespring.
need to accomplish
Says
to really make sure
because
that it's good to
rockets
go.
or something.
We'll make sure all those systems are working during the test flight so that the future missions will have them available even if they don't plan to utilize them.
So about an hour
The
before
NASA
launch
team,
on the
helping to share
YouTube, because
that
I'm
experience and teaching
streaming
them
to
the
both
lessons that
YouTube
we've
and
learned
Twitch
by
at the
going through
moment.
this. Now there's another
About an hour before
capability
launch, I'm
in the
actually going
US
to go.
besides NASA to
We're going to
operate
stay on
something
the
of this
Twitch,
magnitude.
but if you are watching on
When
YouTube,
is the last time
it's
humans
going to
launched
switch
on a new
channels,
vehicle?
and
Certainly
the
on
stream
the
will
American
end on
side,
YouTube.
It's been several decades.
And go over to
Now we're
another
in a
channel.
time when we've got
So
multiple vehicles under development. It's a great
I'm actually
time
streaming
from
it in
a space
collaboration.
exploration time frame just to
Ah,
see all
no,
that
they don't
happening,
if you're
and it's
not
because of this
affiliated,
nurturing of the
which I'm not.
environment, being able to
I'm not an
pull in a
affiliate,
wider
so
group of
I'm
people
okay
who
to
can
do it.
contribute towards human spaceflight. It's a super cool time.
I read
On a
into it. I
deeply
made sure.
personal,
I actually had
level,
someone
I'm
question
really
me on that the
excited
other day.
My son is going to get a chance to see me launch into space. Being an astronaut has been a little
Yeah.
bit of a
The fact
an
that
abstraction
I'm small
thing for
enough
him,
not
'cause he's
to
seen me
matter,
do it
you
in
know.
old videos, but he hasn't seen me do it for real, and so I'm excited.
Obviously, I
for him
won't be able to
see,
do that so
this
much.
launch.
Which
So I
is
want to
really
thank the
not
entire
helpful.
commercial crew program team
If-
that's worked together to
you know,
get to
if
this
I do
point
ever
where we've
become
got
big enough
vehicles
to
in the
be
launch pad
affiliate,
ready to head to the International Space Station.
I'm gonna have to choose, and that's gonna be a hard choice.
And here is a live look again inside the suit up room in the Neil Armstrong Operations and Checkout building. We can see now NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine. He's talking to the crew. You won't hear any audio in here. And actually, we had some questions about this Wednesday because people were like, why can't I hear what they're saying? That's by design. It's not a mistake.
Oh, I get loads.
We are really lucky
doesn't
to be
matter.
able to show you this video live as they're suiting up.
You get
but you don't hear
copyright
the
claims
audio
no matter
because
what.
that's a little bit, we try to give the crew a little bit of privacy. And so
I think some of my
being able
first
to
videos
talk
had
freely
copyright
and
claims on.
share really what's on
And I,
their mind
like, had no
without
subscribers.
having to worry about who's listening is part of the reason you don't hear audio in there.
Oh
but,
wow, yeah, more than me then.
that's Jim Bridenstine there talking to the crew, and it looks like
Did you
Associate
hear
Administrator
about
Jim
Everyday
Wilhart,
Astronaut
is also in the
with
room
the
standing to
copyright
the
claim
right of
on
your
his
screen.
own video, which used his own music, his
And these are
own
great
cameras,
moments to
with
get,
footage that he
a
shot
last
from
chance to
his
talk to the senior leadership of NASA as
from
we
his
prepare
own
to go
gear
off and launch into
with
the cosmos.
satellite
I think
connections
when you
or
look at how Bob and Doug
router
complement each
connections
other, and how these SpaceX
that he had
suits,
paid
you know,
$1,000
really
to
complement
have,
the astronauts too, because they're more
and
form-fitted, they're
it was
custom-made,
all his own original
and,
music, all his
this
own
is a
original
moment where
footage,
they're
all his
getting
own
ready to,
original animations.
do the real deal.
Um,
Lauren, I think
it
the
travelled from
integration of the
Ohio, I
suit
think,
and the
down
vehicle
to,
and the seats is
I think it was
really
either
really
Iowa
impressive
or
how y'all-
Ohio,
how y'all at
all the way
SpaceX did
down. He
that.
was on site. He
Yeah, the
did his
primary
own interview
purpose
with
of the spacesuit, it's
with
a pressure suit.
Elon
Now, the
and
Dragon capsule is
Jim
already
Bridenstine,
pressurized, so even in the vacuum of space,
and then
the crew
NBC
is safe
copyright
inside
claimed
of
it.
Dragon. But in the unlikely event of an anomaly that causes the capsule to depressurize, we can actually flow oxygen or nitrox into the suit, and that will keep the astronauts pressurized in flight. So that's its main purpose. So it's that form and function, and some style there as well.
And for the kids
Yeah,
out
we
there
did
that
quite
have 3D
quickly,
printers or
actually.
have 3D printed.
I have seen it before where
were made by 3D printing, so you could be a space
where it's
designer
taken
yourself
weeks to get it
because you already have
lifted.
the skill set.
There's a
or
guy,
fly
Matt
in
Lown,
space one day if you wanted to.
who
And I'm
actually streams
curious
Kerbal
about
Space
what kind of
Program a lot.
conversation might be going on with that. It looks like it's lighthearted. You can see
or
Doug
does
laughing
videos
there.
of it anyway.
I know that
And
Mr. Bridenstine has said, Bob and Doug, if you want to back out, it's not too late. I would imagine he may have said that again. I know they're ready to go. They're as eager as can be.
He had
and
got
it
permission
looks
to
like they may
use
have
this
another
music
visitor coming in. Oh no, it looks like the
for all of his
administration's team
intros
has
on
something
every
there,
one
but,
of his videos. And the
Yeah,
guy
it's
even has
really
on his
important.
website who
we've
made the
trained for
music.
so long.
I
we've
do
gone
not
through the malfunction
chase copyright
processes. Now
claims
he's doing a
for
selfie.
of course,
use
you
of
gotta
my
do a selfie.
music.
I didn't see them do this on Wednesday, so they probably
And
kicking themselves when they walked out. Why didn't we
one
do a
night he
selfie
woke
in there?
one morning he
has
woke
an
up
Instagram filter to put the
to
glasses
a
on.
lot of
Do you think he has
emails
it on?
basically for
Well, you can
copyright
tweet at him and
claims
find out.
Yeah, I might have to do that.
every single one of his videos.
No, this is a great lighthearted
And I
moment. It helps get the
think
guys in a good frame
they all got
frame
blocked.
set, mindset to go off in space.
And it took
very
him
calm and cool.
probably a
and
couple of
way.
weeks to
I think
get
he's
it
now taking
sorted.
pictures of
And he
some
had
of
to
the-
come to some
the
sort
crew
of
text, the suit
compromise,
text,
I
which is
believe, in the
fantastic.
end.
It's all about bringing the family and the team together. Making everyone.
And the
feel
guy,
comfortable
it wasn't
on
even the
flight
guy
deck
that had done the
and helping us
copyright
get
claim,
to
it was
space
some other
safely, as we
company.
always try to do.
I don't know if they
And
bought the
obviously
rights
this
to
is,
his song or what,
this
but
is a very serious mission. I
it-
mean, we don't
it-
want to
he-
make
he had a lot
make
of
too
trouble
much
trying to
light
get
of
that
it. But
fixed.
Leland, you mentioned Wednesday, and I thought that was a really good point. Why it's important to be able to joke around and keep things light as you're getting ready to go to the launch pad.
Yeah, when I went up on 122 with Rex and we just talked to Rex, we were, in the caravan going over to the launch pad, we were kind of making some jokes. But as we were suiting up, we would look over each other. We would get up and high five, and we'd say, "Hey, you're ready? Let's go. Let's do this." And it's just you've already trained. You know how to do this. You've done it many, many times. And so I think it's that lightheartedness is good. But right when you get in the vehicle, the 3, 2, 1 liftoff. That's when you're ready to go.
And they're the visitors making their way out of the room. And as we mentioned, Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken, I mean, they are two of the finest at what they do. And it's really starting to sink in that the mission is on as you see them in their spacesuits.
And seeing them in these suits has always been so inspiring to me from the first time that I saw them at Hawthorne at SpaceX headquarters during training. It's kind of like a sci-fi film, but unlike a movie prop, which primarily just needs to look cool.
This was actually music that the guy had got
the suit to maximize
through
safety
the
and
YouTube
functionality while maintaining style.
music
Here
library.
are two members of our spacesuits team, Chris Trigg and Maria Sundin, telling us about how the suit came to be.
He'd been really careful about it, but still got
I
stung.
think one of the things that was important in the development of the suit was to make it easy to use, something that the crew just has to literally plug in when they sit down, and then the suit kind of takes care
Thanks
of
for
itself.
the follow, douche.
So the suit is really
Appreciate
kind of
that, man.
one part of the bigger Dragon system. It's really part of the vehicle. So we think of it as kind of a suit seat system. So the seat that the crew is in and the suit are in a lot of ways working together. And so it made sense that we were designing Dragon in-house to also design the suit.
I appreciate it. How's everyone doing today anyway?
It's still
good day?
in Hawthorne, California, in the same building as the rocket and the capsule. The spacesuit is custom made for each crew member, and
Also, it's
that is
quite
to
warm here today.
optimize the fit for the crew member.
We definitely wanted to
lovely
innovate, and we wanted it to
rural
look inspiring.
England.
But first and foremost, we wanted it to be safe and reliable. The spacesuit's primary purpose is to protect the crew in the unlikely event that the cabin were to depressurize. But the suit does a number of additional things. It provides cooling and communication to the crew inside of the suit. It provides them hearing protection, and the outer layer of the suit is flame resistant, so it provides flame protection as well. when the crew gets in the capsule, they get in their seats and they plug the suit into the umbilical that's attached to the seat. And the umbilical is providing everything
Thing
that the
is
suit
that
needs. So
that's
it
violation of
provides,
Creative Commons
the
license. You
avionics
can't
or
place further
electronics
conditions
for
on the use of your
communications.
content on top of the
It's providing
CC.
the air
So
to
I
cool
re-edited
suit
the music
and
out
also
of the video and
provides
publicly
gas
shamed the
needed
guys for
to
doing that.
pressurize the suit.
Just can't
So it's really
afford,
a
don't
single
care
point
enough to make
that
him
lets the suit
take
do all
him
the
to.
things that it
Yeah,
needs to
that's
do.
fair. That's absolutely
We
fair,
designed the
man.
helmet in-house. The helmet serves a number of different
To be honest,
functions.
at the minute,
Obviously, it's
I'm at a
protecting the crew's
point
head
where
and it's retaining gas like the rest of the suit.
I'm not
but
big enough to
it
care.
also houses the microphones as well
I
as
will
the
use the
valves
music
that
that
are,
I want to use
regulating pressure in the suit.
because it's the right music to use for that point in the video. And
all of those things had to come together.
really,
It'll
you ain't
be
going to get any
obviously
money
really
out of
amazing
it.
to
So
see Bob and Doug in their flight suits.
at this level,
and
so
I
what
think
does it
one of
matter?
the things that's cool about the suit is it's not just a piece of hardware. It's not just a suit. It's a very personal thing. It's Bob's suit and it's Doug's suit. And so seeing the two of them in their suits using it in flight will be just a really amazing thing.
So I will need to pop off
And you're looking live
for a
at
couple of
Launch
minutes, sort of
Complex
every
39A,
45
that is
minutes or
Crew
an hour or
Dragon
so.
in the center of your screen, sitting
I'm
atop
currently
a
making ice cream. I
two-stage
need to
Falcon
go
9
and
SpaceX
stir it up
rocket
so it
that
doesn't
will
become
produce
ice.
1.7 million
Basically,
pounds of
too
thrust
much
at
ice.
liftoff. We are keeping our fingers crossed that the weather cooperates. It's a 50-50 chance. Looks
I will leave
beautiful
you
right
guys
now,
with the
but there
stream.
may be some thunderstorms rolling in later, so we're keeping a close eye on the weather.
Yeah,
In the
matcha-
meantime, we're going to
matcha
head
green
west
tea
to
ice
Hawthorne
cream.
for an operational update. Dan?
Homemade. I made it from scratch.
Hey, Murray.
You can see a
we
picture
are here
on
in
Syndicate
Hawthorne still. The
J's
astronauts have a crew
Discord.
training
It's in the
facility
food.
that's equipped with
I've been busy today.
simulator
I
and a
made
full-scale
I
Dragon
marinated.
mock-up
I went
to
to a
conduct
supermarket. I got some
simulations for
stuff.
phenomenal and
I've got
off-nominal situations.
my
And
sister over
recently,
for
the
dinner
SpaceX
tomorrow.
team shared
So
the exact same
I've
ISS
been
simulator
marinating
that the
some
astronauts
stuff
train on
and
with the public, so you can
making some
try
ice cream, and I
your
made
hand at docking the
strawberry-
ISS.
fresh
If you head
strawberry
over
sauce
to
for dessert. Very busy.
iss.sim.spacex.com, you can try your hand at docking with the space station. And I've tried it once before. It was really difficult. It looks way more. It's more difficult than it actually is, I think.
Yeah, flying in space is really deceiving. Just when you think you're going really slow and everything's okay, the next thing you know, you're careening into the space station. So it's way harder. You have to go way slower than you think. It might take a couple of tries, but it's doable.
Yeah, but you guys should try it and check it out and see if you can do it. So let's check in with John Innsbrucker for a quick update on Dragon and Falcon 9.
Indeed.
John?
We're coming up on T-minus 3 hours and
Status
35
report, let's be
minutes.
quiet.
All continues to go well for today's launch. Now on the launch pad, Falcon 9 is powered on. Engine and stage checkouts were performed last night. All of those looked good. Now we're currently pressurizing gas storage vessels on both the first and second stage. And as I like to report, the good news is there's nothing significant to talk about on the rocket right now. Now on top of Falcon 9 is the Dragon spacecraft. That's being prepared for the crew. The Dragon propellant system was pressurized to final flight pressure about an hour ago. We had the support team arrive in the White Room just inside T-minus 4 hours, and we're waiting right now for the crew to walk out of the ONC building, and they should arrive at the pad by about T-minus 3 hours. For the Dragon spacecraft, all systems are also currently go. The Air Force range reports no issues at this time. The range will be maintaining both air and sea space clearance around the launch pad. They also help support things like putting the roadblocks up to prevent access to the hazard areas at both the launch site at 39A and around the Cape. Now, the big question, of course, is the weather. And as I've said before, we all talk about it, but it's the one thing we can't do anything about. Weather is 50% probability of good conditions. We are going to be watching for the clouds, lightning, thunderstorms. The sea breeze is not as strong today, and that's going to not help push all of that back over Central Florida. But right now, things are looking good with both Falcon 9 and Dragon as we count down to liftoff. Now, we want to see where you're following today's launch from, so we're going to jump over to Tahira at our social desk.
Okay, while we're doing that, I should be back in a second.
Thanks, John. So glad to hear that things are at least looking good right now for this launch. Really hope it stays that way. So we just took a look at numbers of viewerships across our social media platforms, and there are now 500,000 of you tuning in for today's broadcast. Welcome, guys. We are so excited to have you. We also have the top cities right now tuning in, and that's Columbia, South Carolina, Houston, Texas, Los Angeles, New York, and Orlando. So it seems like the East Coast is really pulling today's viewership, but hey, last time on Wednesday, California came in and really stole the whole show away. Let's take a look at what's being shared online right now. So right now we have this future astronaut, and I don't know who he had to call, but it looks like he is in this SpaceX suit and his Tesla getting ready for round 2. Absolutely love it. Let's take a second look. Okay, right now we have a French bulldog. It looks like taking Bob's place for launch right now. This is so funny. We'd love to see it, guys. And so for those of you tuning in, be sure to use that hashtag LaunchAmerica on social media and show us how you're getting ready for liftoff. So earlier in the show, we polled users to see which NASA logo you're sporting for today's launch, and the results are in. So it looks like about 62% of you are wearing the meatball today, and that leaves the worm falling a little bit behind. But hey, now that the worm is back, maybe y'all will be sporting it more often. And so with that, let's head back to Marie at NASA Kennedy. Marie?
Thanks, Tahira. We have some really spirited reactions here. We're looking live at the ONC walkout doors, but I just have to tell you, Leland threw up his arms in the air in victory when he saw more people sporting the meatball, and Lauren looks like someone just kidnapped her dog.
I am shook.
Go worm, go worm, go away worm.
Oh, wow. You know, you can't predict, you know, how everyone else feels. That's the beauty of diversity of opinions, you know.
And other traditions like the meatball and the worm, or a card game that we play called Possum's Fargo. And you have to play enough hands to where the commander loses a hand before we can walk out. So that's probably going on right now, and they're getting ready to have Doug lose his hand.
Yes.
And then we can get in the elevator and come out and get in the spaceship.
Yep, so we're giving them that moment in private. And Leland, I wanted to ask you too, because I know, I mean, we had a scrub really late in the count yesterday. We got just under T-minus 17 minutes, and we were all like, oh, it was like a collective groan across the country, everybody watching. And I know you've been through a delay once yourself on one of your shuttle flights. And I wonder, you know, what does it take to kind of refocus yourself on day 2? I mean, do you go through all the exact same preparations? Do you do anything a little different? Is there a little bit of superstition involved?
No, not really. I mean, we try to keep everything the same way because we've practiced this way.
And
now
I'm
we're in the real
back.
day, we're playing this way. So if you
So, Team Worm,
format
definitely.
you've done before,
Do you know why I like
nothing
Team
else
Worm?
Hopefully will happen that's out of character to
I like
so
the
I think we
meatball
just
as
try
well.
to
Don't
stay
get me
the same.
wrong. I am greedy like Sony is.
That's good insight.
But
And I know
the reason
you know,
I like
Bob
Team
and Doug, we
Worm
heard them on the comms after that as they were
is Flight of the
detained to
Navigator.
Falcon 9, and we're waiting for them to get out of Crew Dragon.
Because
and
it appeared
They
everywhere.
were just cool, calm, collected, thanking the teams for doing a good job. Nobody's getting launch fever. And, you know, they're going to do the same thing today. No matter how many people are watching,
I loved
they're
that
going
film
to
as a
make the
kid.
same call as they
And,
would if nobody was paying any attention.
Right, and, I
and
was talking
you know,
to,
Sarah
TJ
Jessica
Stillcom
Parker
before I launched my
and
first mission, and he said that he made a
in
mistake
that,
and flipped the wrong switch on Ascent.
you got
and
NASA
he glommed
everywhere,
on that
the
and
worm
was about to make
everywhere.
another mistake. But he said that he had to just
Plastered on
focus and
everything.
get back to grace under pressure, so he would make a third mistake.
Crap for
which would have been,
most in the
catastrophic.
spectacles
So
of
that's what we
childhood.
always try to do.
Yeah,
is try
I mean,
to
don't
do
get me
everything
wrong,
the
it's
same
not
way.
aged well.
Be very deliberate, but be very graceful. Not really try to overthink something, but try to stay safe.
It is what it
Absolutely.
is.
And
Calm.
Yeah,
It's nostalgia.
That's so key, and I know that's top of mind for all the SpaceX and NASA teams working on this today.
And
And
that's-
again, we're
that's
just
why I like the
standing
one.
by.
It's
We
nostalgia.
expect the crew is going to be leaving the suit-up room in just a couple of minutes, so we're giving them those last few minutes in private at the ONC building. And again, we're looking at the pad here. One of the other things that struck me, you know, we watched the videos about Bob and Doug, and when I went home on Wednesday, you know, because people saw, a lot of people who were watching and then or maybe are watching again today, saw the videos about them, learned a little bit about their military background. My husband's a Marine, so he's like super pumped about Doug. You know, Doug tweeted Semper Fi, and so I know like all the Marines out there are like just super pumped about seeing this, and the airmen that are watching Bob, seeing them represent the Air Force. I mean, it's just
Fair
such
pairing
a
a
cool
child
moment
and a
for our
puppet
military
together
community.
as leads
And
for a
as
movie was
military
very
spouse,
ambitious.
I definitely feel some
Especially
of that
one voiced
pride.
by
I saw
Pee
Charlie
Wee,
Bolden
if I
last night
remember
coming from the
right.
restaurant, and he was very excited about Doug.
I mean,
as a
you think
Marine, and he's a Marine, and
how
so
much
Semper Fi
synthesizer
is
music
definitely
was in
something
that
he
as
said,
well.
Godspeed, Semper Fi. Go Crew Dragon. So it's our military people that are helping us with this launch, with the recovery,
I'm not
with all these
sympathising,
other
but
things.
that
was very
really
to the success of the
80s
mission.
music.
Absolutely. And we want to turn our attention back to the Neil Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building. If we could, we want to take you to a picture of the doors. There they are. Those are the doors at the back of the crew quarters building. And it's an area where family, friends, and members of the media can share one final moment
It's so
with the crew before launch.
I mean, you think
now,
the look of it, the
has
sound of
signaled
it,
the beginning of the march towards
the
launch
style
for
of
every
everything
American
was
mission
just
to
so
space
80s.
since 1968. This is the moment that is immortalized on film and video for
It's like you look at it and you know
astronauts
exactly
from
when
Apollo
that film
all
has
the
come
way
from.
through Space Shuttle, serving 150 total missions, and soon, if the weather cooperates, mission number 151 with the first 2 commercial crew astronauts. These doors carry with them a legacy of purpose and action, and today they will announce to all of us the start of this, NASA's SpaceX Demo-2 mission.
And you saw just a little bit of my walkout from STS-129, my last mission.
No.
And I remember having.
Is he a bit
friends
like
and family out
Screech
there.
from Saved by the
My
Bell?
chemistry teacher that was in the crowd. She got me turned on to science and helped me actually become an astronaut. And I just remember her being in the crowd saying, "Go Leland!" And it was just such a memorable moment for me. It kind of got more rocket fuel in my veins, getting me ready for my mission.
Yeah, absolutely. And we were just looking at a live picture outside of the building where we could see some of the folks gathered. We could see Doug and Bob's immediate families. There's a small contingent of media there. I mean, normally that place would be just kind of jam-packed with as many people as we could fit in there to capture that moment. We of course had to scale that back a little bit to maintain social distancing. But there's still a very excited group of people standing outside the building right now, waiting for that to happen.
Jessica Parker's gone on and done
families
all
there,
sorts
and
of
that
stuff.
they have that moment with them prior to getting inside of the Teslas.
That was his best film, apparently.
Seeing that the last time we made that attempt was this incredibly emotional moment. I have no doubt it will also be emotional again. But yeah, that I can only imagine what's going through their heads, in that moment when they're just waving goodbye for the last time before flying. I mean, Leland, were you nervous? Were you...
At that moment,
we went straight from acting to a small working in a sports goods store.
Walkout, but I think at that moment we're thinking about our families, leaving our families, but then at the same time we're going to do this incredible thing for helping advance our civilization. We are working as a team. All the other teams now with SpaceX and NASA,
guns,
and people all around the world really
with the intention of trafficking,
helping us get to space so we can advance our civilization. And I think those moments are really heartfelt.
6 months in prison.
A team of people have helped us get to this point.
Consumption of alcohol in the
and
public
we are
place,
looking at a live picture now of Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley
with a weapon.
walking down that hallway in the astronaut crew quarters. We just saw Doug wave at the screen, and they're just turning the
arrested
corner,
in
getting
connection with
inside
the bank
that
robbery
elevator.
of a Scotia bank.
You can't see it from here, but there is a banner hanging there. You can kind of see it in the back. There's a banner hanging on the wall of the elevator with the signatures of all the people who worked on this mission. So it was really important for them to hang that up in there so Bob and Doug could see it.
Yeah, we see that, and we see all those signatures of people that have helped us
Drew
through training,
Barrymore,
through Fit Check, through all of these moments, and,
you think
getting ready for this
she's
mission.
probably the biggest
and it feels
actress
like
to
they're
come
going
out
along
of that
with us
film
on the ride.
Absolutely. And as we wait for the crew to come downstairs to the first floor, we will
Jerry
pause
Kramer
on
for
today's
GTA.
efforts with our national anthem. Kelly Clarkson just
It
blew us
sounds
away
like his
with a
life has
fantastic
been
rendition
like Grand
Wednesday.
Theft Auto.
Here she is again.
Oh, here we go.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air, gave
Oh,
Oh,
she
I got
belted that
goosebumps
out.
listening to that. I mean, it doesn't get old. We heard it Wednesday, but I mean, I could hear that every day of the week.
Wednesday? I
She
thought it
was
was
blown.
Thursday.
Yeah, amazing. That's a live look again at Launch Complex 39A. We are awaiting astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley to walk out of the
Oh,
Neil
no, it
Armstrong
was Wednesday.
Operations and Checkout building any minute now. So we're going to be ready to cut to that shot just as soon as we get the word that they're ready to walk out that door. Those doors, excuse me. Again, looking like
Is it really
it's
bad that
been
I
a
just had
beautiful
Gloria?
start
Is
to
it
the
Gloria
day
Gaynor in my
here
head?
on Cape Canaveral.
She said, "Walk out the door."
But we're keeping a close eye on weather because it looks a little iffy as we get later into the afternoon, closer to launch time, which again is 3:22 this afternoon.
It always blows me away every time I visit Florida. Is 1 hour it's
Don't
a
turn around
beautiful,
now.
clear, gorgeous day, and then an hour later it's a thunderstorm.
You said it.
So
Welcome
there
to
we
our
go.
world.
3 minutes 21 and
Hour
35
and
seconds to
Yeah,
launch.
Yeah.
well, just
Hopefully.
similarly to last attempt, right? I mean, just 15, 20 minutes later, it was good to go.
I know it hurt my soul because we have this instantaneous launch window. It's not like with shuttle where we could give it a couple more minutes because you had a 10-minute window. We have a single second to get this off the ground, so everything's got to be just right.
Suitably
Conditions
relieved,
all
I
have to
guess,
be green at
Stoney.
that moment.
Again, Mother Nature showing she's in charge.
Absolutely. And we just heard we're about 30 seconds, less than 30 seconds now from seeing the
There we
crew
go.
walk out of those doors. So we are standing by to show you that moment live. There's a live look at the ONC walkout doors.
You know, Marie, I think my STS-129 patch is still over top of the door. There's a bunch of patches up there unless they've removed them and put space station patches up there. But this
Can
is
you
a
imagine
very
if we started
solemn
signing the
moment for
singing the
walkout
national
from,
anthem
a storied
before
legacy
every
of
league football match
Apollo
over here?
and seeing Apollo astronauts
America
walk out of these doors,
yeah,
and now
they
we're
do.
getting back to
I mean,
U.S. astronauts launching from American soil,
you
walking
think with
through these doors
football
again.
in the UK
Incredible moment in the era of space travel.
And we saw some just beautiful moments when they walked out on Wednesday, and looking forward to seeing those again. I was
You think,
perusing all of the different newspapers
with
and
the FA
stories
Cup
online
and how
just taking
how
in all
they
the
do the
photographs.
FA
And
Cup
there the
with
doors
that.
are opening,
Oh, here we go.
and there they are, NASA astronauts.
Small crowd, but big.
To be honest, the USA is so much more patriotic than
NASA
the UK is.
astronauts
I mean,
Bob
it's
Behnken
all
and
a
Doug
bit much
Hurley.
for us
Doug on the
Brits, I
left,
think.
Bob on the right, waving to the crowd there to cheer them on.
But I've got to say, with the FA Cup and the English Football League, having the
There are
national
their
anthem
families
sung at the
right in
final,
front of them.
The virtual hug,
and the
a
whole
very
spectacle of
special
the
moment.
whole event,
Fist bumps.
it is really good. I've got to say, I do like the spectacle of the FA Cup final, but as much as I don't follow football that
I
much.
hear them.
But we don't do it nearly as much as the American. They do it before pretty much every sport and event.
Now they are getting into the Tesla Model X that's going to take them to the launch pad, being strapped into their seats.
Their suit techs are attaching their umbilicals, so integrated into the Teslas. These are not just any Tesla you can just buy off the web or in a Tesla dealership.
It's a bit
They've
warm
been
here
outfitted with
in
cooling
Norfolk.
units, and that white umbilical, similar to what you saw in the the suit room, that umbilical is being connected to the suit to provide cooling air to the astronauts while they're on the way to the pad. And those Falcon wing doors are closing.
Super sleek.
Yeah, I mean, you
rapid
know, with
departure from the
football, you get the
Astrovan.
World Cup, you get the Euros.
Yes, I would say so.
And
they do it in
their
that.
flight
But again,
surgeon
you represent
is
in your
in the
country. It's a
front
bit
seat
different.
in the passenger side, taking the journey along with them.
As I mentioned last time, we always think about the technology and the rockets, but
See,
this
I
is
am in
what it's all
Norwich.
about,
Well,
the
I'm just
families
outside
coming
Norwich,
together,
but I am.
supporting
Yeah,
the
I
families,
live
us
in
working
Norwich.
together as a team to ensure they get up there safely and back home safely.
Whereabouts are
for
you,
the families.
Stoney? trying to look up
I
potential.
couldn't hear
actually.
everything they were saying, but I did catch Bob telling his son to be good for
He was
mom,
22.
make her life easy.
Oh, North London, nice. I've done a couple of.
As a parent, I appreciate
I've been
that.
down to Wood Green for a couple of.
See that
For a couple of
prominent NASA
meetings.
ball.
I believe Space Lab, who will be joining us and stream nearer the time, and obviously transferring over to his YouTube channel on the YouTube side of things later. He's Chelmsford, I believe.
Now, as we watch
Yeah,
the
no, which is
convoy
cool.
begin
Not,
their journey
you know,
to Pad 39A,
I
to our
didn't mind
SpaceX
Wood
and
Green,
NASA family who over the years
but
made this mission
you know,
a
I've only
reality
spent
and have
a matter of
worked this
days
launch
there, really.
campaign up to this point. We have you here in our thoughts.
And we wish every one of you could be here to see this up close. But we want you to be part of this journey, regardless of where you call
But,
home
you
and
know,
regardless of where you're
London's only a
watching from
couple hours
today.
away by
And
train
so for the
or
next
by
few
car,
minutes, we are
really.
going to follow the convoy,
Straight
but
up the
highlight
A11,
those
M11,
whose words
yeah,
and
M11
hands
and
and
A11,
thoughts
and you're
built
here.
all that we see here today. We hope all of you watching can feel the pride each of these NASA
just
and
outside
SpaceX team
Norwich,
members
near the
has
airport.
for this drive out to the pad.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I went into Norwich City Centre yesterday morning, actually, to go and buy some toiletries because, you know, running low, and some shops are cheaper than others for the same thing. So I needed to go into the city, and I don't know if you ever go on holiday in Spain and you go into the town or the city, wherever you are, and it's it's a bit early and nothing's quite open yet. You know, it's sunny and that, but it's really quiet and no one's about, and all the shops are closed. That's what it was like. Hey, gameplay. Hey, Adam. Welcome. The armored car is on YouTube here. The armored car is to make sure the astronauts don't change their mind. I love it. I like it. Yeah.
Hi, this is Perla from Hawthorne headquarters.
You wait, you see one of the Tesla Model X's dart off to the left on the slip road, and you're like, right, armored car, into you go. Where do you think you're going? Love it.
9 years in the making. This is such a historic time, and our team has worked so hard, and we're very excited to be here. Go Bob and Doug!
So I'm just trying to keep an eye on Discord as well, so that I can let you guys know when to go over to Space Lab's channel on YouTube side.
From Johnson Space Center. Bob and Doug, wishing you a great flight. I just wanted to tell you good luck.
Hi, I'm Dustin Kamak with NASA Kennedy's Communications and Public
Awesome.
Engagement Director.
Model X for machine.
And we all want to wish Bob and Doug
Space,
safe travels
John
and Godspeed. You are hope and inspiration to us all. Now, let's get out there and
Model
launch
X, the
America.
machines shall conquer space. John Connor on 50 cal, Daka. Brilliant. Love it.
I love seeing that group of people. I mean, we saw all those different groups of folks from
What I
NASA
can't believe
and
is actually how
SpaceX,
far it is.
from all
I
different
know,
walks
you
of life
know,
that
it's,
have come together to make this
it's
happen.
got to be
and
away from
that was
everywhere
just
else.
a small fraction of them. Look at
And,
that shot. That is
That's
so
so
cool.
I mean, I'm quite
Well,
surprised they've let him
thumbs
have
up
his
from-
window open.
guess that's from
like
Bob.
that. I mean, it's cool.
Yeah, and you know,
but
it took a
you
little bit
think
of
anything could fly in there.
creativity to get this shot to happen. We have a chase vehicle that's on the other side of the road, which
Oh,
is of
chase
course
vehicle.
shut down, so we could get a camera.
that the
in
one with
there
the gun?
And follow them out. So we are really thankful to Kennedy Space Center Protective Forces for helping us make that happen, so we could see Bob and Doug all the way out to the launch pad.
Love it.
My ride out was a little bit different than what they're experiencing in this Tesla, because we had the Astrovan had bench seats on each side, and we could look across at each other as we were driving out, and it was moments where we would tell some jokes, but sometimes we would just look at each other, and we had such gratitude for having this opportunity to launch into space and to think about all the people that had a hand in helping us get in that vehicle to drive out to the launch pad to get ready for this momentous moment. And I think that's probably, even though they're sitting, side by side, I think they're probably thinking of the gratitude and the people that have helped them get here, so that they can be on the, the pointy end of the rocket, getting a chance to go up to space. It's just
make sure pointy end up and flamey end down.
They're listening to some tunes too, I heard, right, Lauren?
Yeah. There are at least 3 songs on their playlist that are super interesting. The first is AC/DC's Back in Black. You know that one.
Yeah, well, who doesn't?
Right.
Do a flip.
That they're listening to is the elevator music from
it's probably a good thing that
the girl from Ipanema.
Syndicate J's not piloting.
Oh, Leland.
Okay.
Got another
I don't
career.
think either
Career number
Falcon
3.
and NASA would appreciate a flip
Astronaut,
mid-flight.
musician.
And of course, they are also listening to the Star Spangled Banner, the Army French horns version.
Now, we didn't have tunes in the Astrovan.
No?
And I know that the Tesla has a really kicking stereo system. Is that still the custom stereo system that's in the Tesla?
I haven't been in this one, so I don't know what they're rocking, but I'm sure it's pretty cool.
My
Again,
name's Brian
just for
Pepper.
some perspective, they left the operations and checkout building just a minute ago, and so it's about a 9-mile
I
drive.
want to know
from
who's
there
in the
to
Nissan
launch
and the
pad.
Range Rover
It
behind
takes them around 20 minutes, kind of depends on how quickly they're trucking.
The other thing sometimes that you hear
Like
is
2
you're
random
in
guys were just
the
pulled on
is
from the slip
helicopter,
road and joined
Huey
in the
helicopter
convoy.
flying overhead, and it's kind of also, you're thinking military, you're thinking really important things, and it's a moment that also kind of solidifies in you that something big is about.
We've got
to
2 extra seats. We'll jump on.
That whoop, 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 the sound of that Huey is just in your head, and it feels good that all these people are helping you get there safely.
Yeah, I think we heard that actually coming by
We did.
this building earlier because we were talking. I was like, I hope that's what I think it is.
And it was pretty
What
low.
was we
because it was
saying the
pretty
other
loud.
day?
You could feel it.
Oh,
I could feel it.
Yeah.
I took this drive yesterday in my rental car.
Doug was
and
like,
granted, it
hey,
wasn't in a Model X,
I need to pull
and
off.
I'm not
There's
an
a
astronaut,
McDonald's.
but driving to 39A, that same route, and trying to put myself, imagine myself in that headspace, it was pretty awesome. I got to figure out how to get on.
McDonald's has just opened, and I need to get my last Big Mac before we go up.
That is true.
You just got to get on the rocket.
Yeah, well, Leland, there's a big group of people that want you there.
I think we should, listen to them.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
I think we should.
Maybe we should make that a poll question.
Yeah. Well, we should all maybe go to space. What do you think?
I am on board. I mean, not literally right now, but I would like to be on board.
Lauren, would you go with us?
Who here would
Absolutely.
would love to be in their seat right now?
We have so many people watching online, sending well wishes to Bob and Doug. I mean, it started early this week as we were ramping up for Wednesday, and I feel like it's just been this build-up of momentum because we were.
We're going to hold the
along
countdown.
Wednesday,
We
and
need to
now
make some
we're all
fast food
following along
deliveries here.
Saturday, and we have people watching from home that
Wouldn't want my
hopefully
last
don't
meal
have
to
to
be
work
something
today,
tricky for you
and
insides.
can really tune into what's going on here.
I mean, McDonald's food is pretty much cooked to death, isn't it? It's
and astronauts truly appreciate
they
all
managed
the support, all the
to cook
social
every
media feeds,
ounce of juice
and we
out
think
of them
about
burgers.
our families. We saw Megan and Karen there with their sons, wishing Doug and Bob well wishes and Godspeed as they head off in these Teslas to launch pad 39A that launched.
What if you got the burbles right after you had?
I think
this
is just one of those moments where everyone in this country is coming together to wish them well, to get them to space safely. It's a
or
really
just
great day.
even worse than that.
And they are
just
now
as
on
the
Saturn
engines
Causeway.
fire
They
up,
just
you're
made that
like,
right
"Whoa."
turn onto Saturn Causeway.
And
So
you're like, "Oh,
to the right of the screen,
got
that building is
19
the
hours of
operations and
this.
support building 2. And on the left, it's out of view right now, is the vehicle assembly building, that iconic building that processed
fine, Uber delivers to the
space shuttle and
ISS.
Saturn V rocket to also.
That's where that
That's right.
transporter takes out.
They could
used to
cook
take
some,
out the
bake some
Apollo
cookies
Saturn
once
V
they're up there.
rockets and the
They got
and the
they got
space
an oven
shuttle.
up there now,
It's
haven't
just
they?
incredible machine.
And where they're passing right now, I mean, if we were to run outside, we could wave because we are off to the right of your screen there at the press site where you see.
Why does it smell eggy in
there.
here?
So from this point, they've still
SpaceX
got about
control.
3 miles to go.
We have a sulfur leak, but we're not using any sulfur.
See you guys later. I'll be back in a minute.
You're gonna go
We don't
hop
have
in.
anything with sulfur. Oh.
And obviously, it's not just Bob and Doug's Tesla. There's a number of cars in that convoy. They're being escorted by Kennedy Space Center Protective Forces and also SpaceX security. They have a flight surgeon there with them. And we've seen just a
as they're
sprinkle
about to
of
close the
folks
helmet, you just hear,
along the way. Normally, we'd have a whole lot more people out here watching this, but we really appreciate you watching online and from home. Again, wherever you are, at the beach, watching on your phone, your tablet, your whatever mobile device you have, we're going to be here every step of the journey, taking you through it moment by moment. There's a cool shot with the worm on the roof.
There we go.
The second place worm, yes.
The second place worm.
So, Leland, when I drive down this road on the way to 39A, on the left, there's that area where the crawler used to
really?
drive.
I wouldn't have
Can you tell
thought
us a little bit about the crawler?
Yeah, right there you can see.
Do you imagine if they just chucked Bob and Doug in the car and said, right, drive yourself down there?
Crushes that gravel almost into sand. It's so heavy. When the shuttle will go out and the Apollo Saturn V rocket will go out, and it's just this thing moves at a glacial rate to get out there because it's got this huge rocket or shuttle on it. But I had a chance to see that when my shuttle went out one day with Alan Poindexter, and it's just this enormous, tracks and vehicle but you guys do it in a different way, don't you? You don't go out of the vehicle assembly building. You have your own building.
Yeah, we have a hangar right there on the pad, so we just roll the rocket up the hill.
You kind of do it like a Soyuz, where you just raise it up right there from horizontal to vertical, and it's done.
Yeah. Horizontal integration, so you don't need an enormous building in order to process the rocket and mate Dragon to the pad at the very top of the hill. You raise it up vertical with the transporter erector.
And again, all these efficiencies to help us get people to space faster and safer, and this is going to be the future of space travel. And also the relationship between NASA and SpaceX working together as a team.
Oh my God, there's a convoy. I wouldn't have realised. I had no idea.
At this point, the convoy is approaching pad 39A, and they're entering what is known as the BDA, or blast danger area.
Here come Bob and Doug. Bob is riding the
technicians, engineers, or astronauts enter that area around the launch pad. The SpaceX and NASA teams do an internal
and Doug is testing out the new suit with built-in Heelys.
This storied launch pad, which has been the beginning point for so many firsts, is the perfect backdrop for today's historic launch that marks a new first and a new
here
era
we can see on the right all of the old Starship SN models.
And here's a view from our gantry near the Launch Complex 39A. So we've got another view of the convoy going by here.
Unfortunately, these all failed.
If I had to count up all the cameras we have all over the place for this, I'd be
I
here
really
all day.
hope SpaceX has a good day today,
right
because
looking at the
they've not had a great week,
Kennedy
have they?
Space Center,
I mean,
Merritt Island, and all of
they
the nature
had to
around us.
scrub
It's a
Wednesday.
big buffer from 39A so that we can be safe and launch our rockets off to space safely.
They've had
Absolutely. And a lot of
SN4
people don't
blew up.
realize this is a national wildlife refuge. I mean, I pass turtles on the way to my car every day.
Well, when we would run
All that
from
sort
the
of- and,
operation,
they really need a good
checkout
launch
building, we
today.
have to watch out for snakes and for alligators, and so to be really careful about the wildlife.
We used to have
Yeah,
one
that
who
was
lived
a
at
hard
39A.
fail.
Oh, really?
Yeah, an alligator.
I've not seen the
Well,
proper
maybe we'll
footage
see
of
it.
it yet.
Keep an eye out.
but
Tweet at us.
I've
if you
seen
see
the
it.
aftermath.
Did you name him Worm?
Ooh, I was ahead of my time.
I don't know how an alligator would feel about being called Worm, Leland.
Yeah, no.
Exactly.
And we've got a ton of you
it's just
following
good
along
that
on
they've
social
been
media.
doing these test vessels
Lynn
that
says,
are
as a fellow Missourian, we're so
cheaper.
proud of Bob.
Let's say, for
Launch
lack of a better
America, we
word,
will be
cheaper to
watching from
build.
the Space Coast, cheering loud.
Than a full vessel. Like, you think if they'd have just
And
we're
another
going to
comment,
build a full
Godspeed
vessel
and good
here.
luck. Astro
and boom,
Bacon and
it's gone.
Astro Doug, hashtag Launch
Like, spent
America.
billions and
there
billions
you see
and
the
billions.
SpaceX horizontal
Yes.
integration facility. It's on the
But
left
in
of the
a
screen
way
now.
they
We saw
didn't
the front of
necessarily
it,
learn from it.
from the other
I mean,
angle. Or I'm sorry, no, there it is. I was getting my buildings mixed up, so it's on the right now.
Yeah,
Bigger
that-
building.
They just
Yeah, there's the
continue to
Falcon
use
support
pure
building.
oxygen
It's
in
where
the
all of our
atmosphere
offices are,
for
and yeah, you're
spaceflight.
Thank you for the correction.
And
There's
that
our
really
hangar.
wasn't a
We
good
process
idea.
Falcon
I
Heavy
mean, that
in
was
there.
half
There
of
are
the
other
problem.
boosters in that
Was that it
hangar
was
as well.
oxygen rich,
And the rocket and
or
Dragon
pure
that is
oxygen
on the
atmosphere.
pad right
And
now was
if
put
it was
together,
if it
or
had been a
rather
nitrogen
final,
oxygen atmosphere
finally
like they have on
integrated inside of
Dragon
that
2
hangar and then rolled out to that
or Crew
pad
Dragon,
to go up vertical.
it wouldn't have caught fire as
There
much.
it is. That shot really gives you a sense of the scale of the Falcon 9 rocket. Those Teslas look teeny tiny, making their way up there. And so as they make their way up to the pad, we're going to throw it over now to Hawthorne, where Jesse and Dan are watching the action. Hi, guys.
Thanks, Marie. Yeah, really cool watching the Teslas pull up, driving on the launch pad just a few feet away from the vehicle. This is awesome and getting really excited over here. And with us looking at the launch pad right now, we've had to do a number of upgrades, but not only to the launch pad, but SpaceX has also made changes to both Falcon 9 and Dragon to enable flying crew. And a key update to this latest version of Dragon is its highly reliable launch escape system that is capable of carrying crew to safety at any point during the ascent of the rocket.
Another pretty key upgrade is the Dragon's new life support system. As you can imagine, flying humans requires keeping a habitable environment throughout the entire flight, and that means covering everything like providing breathing air, keeping the capsule at a safe pressure, keeping it free of contaminants, removing any carbon dioxide in the air, regulating the temperature, the humidity, all of these things, and also implementing that waste collection system, aka the toilet.
That sounds pretty important. The changes to Falcon 9 were small but extremely meaningful to meet NASA's requirements for safety for human spaceflight. And specifically, SpaceX had to prove a high degree of fault tolerance,
There's a surprising
meaning that
amount
small
of
failures
things
in the system would
far
not
closer
lead to
than I would
mission failure.
think so.
Falcon 9 was
Yeah,
already able to handle engine failure, but
Oh,
new emphasis was
there we
put
go.
on making sure that a failure throughout
Yeah, I
any
mean, a
phase
lot of
of
those
launch
covers
would
and that,
not mean mission failure.
mean,
And this goes all the
you
way
look at
down
those
to
two that are
latches,
right in the
control
path of
valves,
the
electronics, wiring, and so much
the
more.
diverter for the
Right,
exhaust.
well, with the astronauts now on
I
location
don't know how
at
much
pad
of them would be
39A,
left,
we're going to swing it
and
right
you know
back.
you got all
Marie,
the
Lauren,
construction
Leland,
gear.
take us through the crew making their final steps towards
I mean,
the Dragon
SpaceX
spacecraft.
is an
Sure thing. So we are looking
horizontal
again
integration
at Launch
facility
Complex
is fine.
39A.
It's quite a
Just
way
a few
away.
seconds ago, we saw the Tesla carrying
All the
Bob and
temporary
Doug pull
buildings
up
for
to the
the
launch pad.
Starship stuff
this is the site
yeah,
of
it's a long
so
way
much
off.
history, you guys.
It's not
This is
far.
where
It's not far away.
Apollo and Saturn V rockets that launched to the moon took astronauts from. I mean, this pad has so much history. Leland, you launched from there. What's it like seeing Crew Dragon and Falcon 9 there with the pad? With all of the visual changes that have been made, I mean, what kind of emotions?
It really is
does
a
it stir
temporary
up in
building.
You know, when we got out of our Astro van, we stepped out and we just looked up to see this vehicle, and it was creaking,
they did.
it was groaning, it was
But
making
we want
noises,
to.
it was
I think
getting ready
the issue
for us
is
to
more
enter
with
it, to take
the
us off planet, and you know, you get a chance to
with
take a
the,
picture. Sometimes you stand
temporary
there, you look
buildings
there,
that
you
are
think about all
close
the
to
training
it,
you've done,
which wouldn't
all the
normally be there
preparation, and again,
for the
all the
construction
people that
work
have
that's
helped you
going on.
get there, and it's just a solemn, amazing moment for all of us.
And there's another amazing drone shot. Lauren, you
What I
explained
do
this a
find
little bit
funny
earlier about
is
kind of how
they pull up
how SpaceX
outside the
brings the
toilet,
rocket and
which is
capsule
basically a porta
vertical.
cabin.
Now
Yeah.
that we see it, can you kind of explain
Let
that
Doug
again
and
for
Bob
folks who
go
maybe
to the
missed
loo.
that?
Yes, of course. Dragon is actually processed a few miles down the road.
They
At,
then get back in
Area
their Teslas
59,
and go
or
around the
Dragonland,
side of
as
the
we
building.
like to call it.
They could just
We
walk
then
that.
put it on a truck and drive it all the
There's
way
no
to the
point
hangar
taking
where
the
the
time to
rocket is.
jump in those cars just to go over.
And so what'll happen is we'll then break. We call
Yeah,
it breakover.
the water
where
deluge
the
is
vehicle's
sound
up
and
vertical,
pressure
we'll
wave.
turn it sideways because the rocket is being
prevention.
processed sideways or horizontal into the hangar. Lift it, made it to Falcon 9, and then
Yeah,
roll up
it
those
does-
hangar doors and
It
essentially
really does.
pull the vehicle in the transporter erector, which is the big white truss
Yeah,
structure that
exactly.
you see there. All the fluid lines, electrical lines, and everything are connected to the
That's what I
vehicles
mean. That's
via
it's
the
like
TE
all
transporter
we've got to do is
erector.
walk around now.
And they basically roll it up those rails. You can't really see them. You kind of see them in the screen. Those rails.
So we are under 3 hours
roll
now until
the entire
predicted launch.
TE rocket Dragon assembly
Whoever
up to
is
the very
getting
top of the pad, pin it into the pad
Yeah,
systems.
exactly.
And then
Last
roll
chance
it
to
up
have a bit of
vertical.
a stretch of the legs. I'm walking this.
And we are about
Back off.
T-minus 2 hours, 57 minutes, 44 seconds and counting. In just a couple of minutes, we are expecting to hear a formal announcement that the crew is at the pad. Of course, we saw them pull
But
up
we
in the
don't
Teslas,
even-
and there they are.
There we go.
Looks like they've already gotten out of the car, and they are walking up to the elevator that will carry them all the way up to the 255-foot level, and then they'll have a couple of steps to get
decided
up
to walk at this
to
time.
the level where the crew access arm is.
I have the AC/DC song in my head as I see them walking up.
What, Highway
You
to
know what
Hell?
I was kind of jamming out to on my way in was ZZ Top, Sharp Dressed Man.
Oh, nice.
I was like, I don't know, that might be on my playlist if I were in there. But there they are, taking in the sight, craning to see the top of the
Bit of
Falcon
Highway to
9
Hell.
rocket. It's 230 feet tall if you round up, and then Crew Dragon is another 27 feet from the bottom of the trunk to the top of the nose cone. So, when you're out there in person, it's really hard to describe just how large it is.
Look at them getting excited. They're ready to get in the vehicle, get in the elevator, and make it to the top. There's some fog.
There's several songs. It really shouldn't be,
debris.
isn't there?
Appreciate
There's
that.
Burning Ring
They're
of
also
Fire.
wearing FOD covers on their shoes, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We want to make sure that they
I'm
don't,
feeling hot, hot,
track
hot.
the outside, inside of Dragon when they go in, and so
The
right before they
list
enter
is
the
endless,
vehicle, they
really,
remove
isn't it?
The FOD covers off of their boots.
You take for granted, all just the little details like that, all of the thought and preparation that has to go into literally every single piece of this operation.
I love the makeover of Pad 39A with the sleek black with the white ticking and the lines, and it's a very futuristic look for this iconic launch pad. And to think what's been there before with Mercury, Gemini, Apollo, shuttle, and now the SpaceX Crew
They're
Dragon
making a little bit less
getting
of
ready
it this
for
time. I
the
suppose
launch of
they've
the
done all
International
the
Space Station.
pomp and pageantry last
Rocket
time.
fuel still going through my veins.
And we feel so honored to be able to launch from here. Oh, here they are. That's a really fast elevator.
I want to know what the glass one is
I
on
know
the
it
left.
really zips. That took them up to 255 feet in just a matter of seconds.
They're removing their FOD covers.
Looks like they were just maybe checking something on his boot or leg.
And we should hear a call any moment that the crew has arrived at the pad as they make their way up the stairs, and
We
they're
know
headed
they
to
have.
the crew access arm
We can
now.
see it. So, yep, just to let you know, but what you can see is real. I do like the that bright
There's the worm again.
on the black background.
Popping.
It really pops.
know
It.
it.
Does pop, and it does look good.
Don't worry, there's a meatball on Crew Dragon.
Those white arrows you see there are essentially illuminating the way for anyone who's up there to find their way to the escape baskets in the event of an emergency that would require them to get far away from the rocket and the pad.
And it's hard to tell from this angle, but there's actually a phone right here, and I can't tell if it's Bob or Doug that's using the phone right now.
That'd be
But
Bob.
Leland, can you explain the significance of
Bob
that? It's
is
the
a
same
bit
phone
bigger
that was
than
there during the shuttle
Doug.
days.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
you
no,
get a chance to
that's
talk
Doug.
to maybe friends or family that you haven't had maybe couldn't come to the launch. In this case, it's quite a few people, but
Perspective,
just
I
to have that
suppose.
last moment to talk to someone before you get in the vehicle. It's a beautiful view.
And we're watching the crew when they're done using the phone there. We expect them to be making their way into the crew access arm.
There we go.
And coming up at about T-minus 2 hours and 35 minutes, the astronauts will ingress, or that's a word we use to describe climbing into Crew Dragon. And we saw Doug do it a couple minutes early on Wednesday. They were a little bit ahead of schedule, so that time could be a little bit flexible. But that's going to happen with the assistance of the suit techs, and they will get strapped into their seats. And so with that coming up, we're going to head over to Hawthorne for a preview of what's in store for the future in space travel. Jesse?
Thanks, Marie. Yeah, shortly after we begin to regularly fly NASA astronauts to and from the space station, SpaceX will also begin flying private passengers to station and beyond using Dragon.
That's right. NASA is enabling up to 2 private astronaut missions to visit the station each year, just as part of our support of the economy in low Earth orbit. It's one of the many ways NASA's working to just open up access to outer space for companies to manufacture products in microgravity, for any new commercial modules in space, and really just to enable more people to be able to explore the stars firsthand.
And the more people out there exploring the stars, the closer we become to becoming a multiplanetary species. Earlier, we showed you a first-hand look at where you would train if you were to fly with us on board Dragon, but now let's take a peek inside of the spacecraft itself.
Awesome, let's have a look. And it's quiet. There we go, down the tunnel.
Intuitive to
There we
know
go.
what we need to do at any given moment in time. When I think about comfort for the astronauts, it's really every aspect of how you could interact with the spaceship that comes to mind. We have 3 different seat sizes. We even go so far as molding the foam around the astronaut's body so that there's not any pressure points, and it's just generally a pleasurable journey to space. Dragon is a spaceship that's all about safety and reliability. We designed it to be 2-fault tolerant, which means that any 2 things could fail. So I could lose a flight computer and a thruster, and I could still bring the crew back home safely. We also added a launch escape system. If anything goes wrong on ascent, the crew can get away from Falcon and get picked up safely. I've worked on Dragon since 2012. When I see Dragon lift off, I think I'm going to feel a buildup of emotion of 8 years of working with some of the best engineers and technicians across the country that put their heart and mind into making this incredible moment happen for everybody.
Staying alive.
All right, so that was a detailed look inside Dragon. Here's a live
That we
look
only
of 2
had half
astronauts
of.
about to climb right in. If you're just now tuning in, you're watching our coverage of the mission known as Demonstration Mission 2 or Demo-2. 2 days, SpaceX and NASA are going to be sending people into orbit on a mission to the International Space Station from U.S. soil for the first time since 2011. Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley are the NASA astronauts flying today, and you can see them right there on screen. They are just right next to their
We're
ride
below
up to
3 hours
space.
now.
Yeah, very exciting. So as you can see, they have already arrived at pad 39A, where Falcon 9 will lift off from at 3:22 p.m. Eastern time today. They have ascended the tall structure already, which is next to the rocket, and it's called the fixed service structure, and also have already walked down the corridor, which is known as the crew arm, which is what they're standing in right now.
That's right. And as they prepare to board Dragon, they have this one final stop that they're standing in right now, and that's the white
They
room.
don't have to do all the
White room
signatures
is
and that on the
literally
wall
just
now,
the
do
room
they?
at
They've
the
already
end
done
of the
that.
crew arm that has an opening into Dragon. It is the last place on planet Earth Bob and Doug are going to be standing before they step into Dragon for their ride to the International Space Station.
And the term the White Room was first used during NASA Gemini missions, where the room right before entering the spaceship was painted white. And as you can see, we've continued this tradition with painting ours white as well. And on Wednesday,
Okay,
they actually
I'm back in
started
a
a new
second.
tradition
I'm just
by
going to check
signing the
on
wall
bits
in the White Room.
and grab a drink.
It's a fairly small area that has room for the crew and a few ground support members to complete cargo load at T-minus 24 hours and crew ingress at T-minus 2 hours and 35 minutes, which is coming up here shortly. And ingress is how we refer to the crew boarding Dragon.
Also inside the White Room is a movable platform that just gets extended out to the capsule just to make that boarding process much smoother for the crew to climb into Dragon. As you might expect, it's also environmentally controlled. You can see kind of a big seal right up against the side hatch, and that's just done so Dragon can be open while keeping all the dust, dirt, and the Florida humidity out of the capsule, making sure it's pristine for the crew. And so that seal is going to stay in place until they begin to retract it, get the arm ready to move out of the way, and by that point the hatch will already be closed.
And the White Room also has lots of tools in order to open the side hatch, complete crew ingress, and prepare for any contingencies or emergency that may be encountered.
And right now they're just in the White Room. They're getting a final briefing. You can see them with a number of different pad technicians. Everybody on that team has a specific job. Some are suit specialists who are going to help Bob and Doug get connected to their seats. Some are specialists with the Dragon capsule itself and are going to be responsible for closing the hatch. And we also typically have a photographer in there just to help kind of capture these moments as the crew gets ready. So right now we're watching, and we can see them start to line up there. We'll see Doug Hurley go in first, and so he'll be the first one through the capsule, and he's going to be ingressing. That's just our spaceflight term for entering. You're going to hear a lot of these terms throughout the next couple of days as they make their way up to orbit. Ingress getting in, egress coming out. And they're also doing that final FOD check, making sure that the crew don't have any foreign object debris, dust, dirt, anything that could interfere with the systems on Dragon just before they get in.
Right, as Leland and Lauren were mentioning earlier, they do have stuff on their suits to protect from FOD, and they have FOD covers on their boots, as they mentioned, as well as on their umbilical port on their suits. And that needs to be removed before they can ingress.
Minutes. The crew has arrived at the White Room, and its ingress is in progress on schedule.
Just listening into the nets and hearing those updates live. But yes, once the FOD check is complete, they can enter, which is happening live on your screen right now. And as they climb into Dragon, they will buckle themselves in and attach their umbilicals to their suits. And as you can see, the suit techs are there to help them get buckled and settled into those seats. And as we mentioned earlier in the broadcast, the suit's primary function is to protect the crew in the event of a cabin depressurization. So the suits help keep them cool, as well as delivers nitrox in case there is a suit depressurization.
As we go through this, we saw Doug Hurley go in first. He's the commander for this mission. He's closest to your screen. And then Bob Bankin's just next to him, and they're going to get some assistance from these suit techs as they get in. There are 4 seats inside of Dragon for these missions, and they are numbered 1 through 4 if you're looking from the perspective of the suit techs inside the hatch, going from right to left. So Doug Hurley is in seat 2, that's the commander seat, and Bob Bankin is in seat 3, which for Crew Dragon's the pilot seat. And then obviously we don't have anybody in seats 1 or 4 today. Crew Dragon is designed to carry 4 astronauts, though, on future NASA missions, and we'll see that on Crew 1, which will have 3 NASA astronauts and 1 from our partner agency, JAXA. And then directly above the crew right now, but right in front of them, once their seats get rotated, are the 3 displays that they'll use throughout the flight. And that just gives them insight into all of Dragon's systems. It allows them to take control of the vehicle and manually fly it, which we'll see them do hopefully only twice during 2 manual flight tests. As again, Dragon's autonomous, but they can jump in and take over if they need to.
And as Dan mentioned, the displays are above them right now, but those seats will rotate back for launch position so that they can easily access those displays. So coming up next, the crew will do a comm check once they're all settled in. And that's so that they can check to make sure that they can hear mission control, and then after that, their seats will be rotated into position. So let's check in with John Innsbrucker for the latest on the health of both of those vehicles. John, what's the status update today?
We're at T-minus 2 hours, 43 minutes, and counting down for the launch of Falcon 9 with Dragon to the space station. As you see, the Dragon launch pad team has obviously arrived at the pad. They got there shortly after T-minus 4 hours, opened up the side hatch on Dragon, got ready for the arrival of the astronauts, We saw the crew come up the elevators, walk over and enter Dragon, and they're now getting situated inside the capsule. Now the flight team is monitoring data from Dragon. They most recently have completed a command and telemetry check of the radio frequency system on Dragon through the Tracking and Data Relay Satellite Network. That looked to go well. There are no issues in work as we watch the astronauts getting situated in their seats inside the Dragon spacecraft. The Falcon 9 team is preparing for final checkouts and propellant load. Those checkouts are due to begin at T-minus 2 hours, some 42 minutes from now, when the launch crew officially gets on console in the firing room. All systems on Falcon 9 are currently go. The range continues to be green on the support side. The areas around the pad obviously clear except for the folks doing the entry into the capsule. Air and sea space are clear. We hear helicopter go by from time to time. The big concern is the weather forecast. We are continuing right now at a 50% probability of violation of the weather constraints. The big concerns are going to be the thick clouds, precipitation, possibility of lightning. I mentioned earlier, normally you get a strong sea breeze from the ocean that pushes inland and keeps the clouds from Central Florida from building up. But today the sea breeze is fairly weak, so we expect the thunderstorms will get closer to the launch pad. We're also checking downrange conditions. If there's a contingency splashdown of Dragon, we're looking at essentially the wave heights, lightning, rain along the trajectory. Right now it's marginal, but it is still go. We do expect that to improve slightly during the day. So fingers crossed there that the downrange weather looks good. But right now at T-minus 2 hours, 41 minutes as the clock continues to count down, all systems are go for launch.
All right, thanks, John I. And as we watch Bob and Doug get buckled into their seats, I'm joined once again by SpaceX's Jessica Jensen, just to kind of walk through everybody what made Dragon a 21st
Okay,
century
so I am
spacecraft.
back and I am
so
with
first
us.
off, thanks for coming in
Just
today. I know
mute my microphone
you
as
gotta
I'm
come in
having
for
a quick
launch.
lunch.
That's always tough.
Of course.
Walk
Obviously
us
we've got a
through
long
again
stream
kind of
today,
Dragon's
so
life history. I mean, we have
I'll be back in a
one
second.
in a clean room pretty soon right behind us. Walk us how we got to where we are today to have Bob and Doug climbing into that spacecraft.
Sure. So SpaceX was founded to make life multiplanetary. That was why Elon started the company back in 2002. But also when he founded the company, we were a very small company for several years. And so we had to look for opportunities to, hey, how do you go from being a small company to actually putting people into orbit? So when NASA came out with the need to fly cargo to and from the International Space Station, we jumped on that because we said, hey, first, not only is carrying cargo to and from the space station cool, I bet we could actually then fly people to the International Space Station. And hey, for 8 years now, we've been flying cargo.
Yeah.
And then now we have transitioned over into flying crew and cargo together. So that's basically been the evolution of Dragon, and it's been awesome.
And I know when we see Falcon 9, we get to talk a lot about reusability. Everyone is very familiar with the first stage coming back down and how cool that looks. Dragon is also designed with some reusability. In fact, you've flown Dragon multiple times, or you've flown Dragons multiple times to the space station. How does reusability factor into Dragon's life cycle?
Yeah, so I'll actually talk a little bit about both, because one thing I think everyone always thinks about reusability and, hey, it saves money or that's great, but reusability actually improves your reliability. So when we get Falcons back and when we get Dragons back, either after one mission or multiple mission, we can do all these detailed inspections on them. And that's super important because when you fly a vehicle, you can only have so many sensors on it. You can't put a sensor, every single inch of a rocket or a spacecraft.
And there's already way more than I think anybody realizes.
Exactly. But so, especially for rockets that wind up in the ocean, some people don't have any idea of what they actually went through. So the fact that we get all the hardware back, we were able to inspect literally every square inch of it and make small design changes that actually improve reliability for the whole fleet. So even though Bob and Doug are on a brand new rocket and a brand new spacecraft, those spacecraft are actually more reliable based on the knowledge we've learned from reusability.
We've walked people through a lot of the new systems on Dragon. What are just some of the cool things that are maybe beneath the surface that people don't know about with Dragon?
So I think one of the coolest things is the autonomous docking system. And what that is it's basically we have, GPS sensors on Dragon, but then we also have cameras and imaging sensors such as a LiDAR on basically the nose cone or the front part of Dragon as it's approaching the space station. And all these sensors are feeding data back to our flight computer to say, hey, how far away am I from the space station? What's my relative velocity to the space station? And then that feeds into the flight computer.
That's really cool,
which has
the bit they were
algorithms
saying about actually it presents
engineers to say, okay,
more
based on how far away you are in your rates,
development
here's how you fire
opportunities
the
and
thrusters
development
to most
knowledge,
effectively
being able
get
to
the
return
docking
and actually
target.
see what physical
And I think
damage
that's
there
just
is
super cool.
Well, I
on
mean,
the rocket and say,
we're all
look,
waiting for our
actually we
cars
can
to
make this a
drive
little bit
ourselves to
better.
work, and for Bob and Doug,
Yeah?
that's exactly what it's doing
oh,
for them.
we've got a bit of a burn through there.
What I think is so cool is the
We
computer
can
does this
fix
just,
that,
like,
and we can,
flawlessly. It's easy.
we
When I
can
tried
make
to do it,
improvements
I
based
failed
purely
miserably.
on
I tried to
information that we
dock
wouldn't have had
Dragon to the
otherwise.
ISS 3 times and I failed. Fourth time I got it. And I will tell the public out there that on our website
So it sounds like
we
they're
actually
now
have
about
a
to do the
Dragon
contest.
ISS simulator, so you yourself can try and fire the thrusters and see how well you do. Maybe I'm just a bad driver, but I think the flight computer does a really good job.
I think we all had fun with it. All right, well, we are just starting to hear. They're going to start up those comm checks with Bob and Doug.
CDR, PLT, comm check,
So let's listen in.
Yeah.
CDR, loud and clear. PLT,
And that's the thing. I mean, obviously the shuttle does come back, but how much of it actually goes into space a second time? The engines don't, and without major refurbishment. All of the tiles come off, all of the tiles are replaced, a load of stuff inside is changed. There's major refurbishment on a shuttle.
And again, we're just listening in. They're doing these comm checks, these communication checks. So Bob and Doug are going to do a series of these checkouts with the teams on the ground, both the Corps here in Hawthorne and the launch director out in
And actually,
Florida.
as well,
And
but
they're
been
gonna be
able
doing
to
this
say,
over
look,
Dragon to
this actually
ground.
stood up really well. We can
They're
push
also
this a
gonna be
little
doing
bit
it
more,
over the
or
countdown net. Those are the two main
we can
loops
do
of
more
nets
of
that
this,
you're
or
gonna hear going
they
out.
can push the envelope a little bit more
They're
with
going to be
more
doing it through their
information.
different communications paths. We heard them do through the TDRS, or the tracking data and relay satellites. Those are those primary satellites that were going to be used to talk to Bob and Doug throughout their flight and to send commands to Dragon. They'll also do it through ground stations. SpaceX has a worldwide network of ground stations that they're able to communicate with the vehicle. And that's what we'll
I
be
think
using
with the
to get
shuttles they
video
did lose, they were
inside
a
the
bit
cabin of
more
Bob and Doug
avoidable.
on their flight up.
They didn't.
So if you tuned in the other day, this is
They
one
knew
of the
about
first
the
things that they
icing
do once they
problem
get
with
inside
the
the vehicle, and this is just to
Challenger,
make sure
with
all the
the
communication systems with the
SRBs.
Dragon spacecraft, with the suits,
Well, not the
everything are
icing, but
working.
the
They're able
temperature
to talk
issue.
to and hear everybody on the ground.
And you could see
Dragon, SpaceX, comm
if
check,
they'd have just reviewed.
SpaceX Dragon, loud and clear.
Core, loud and clear.
Yeah.
Ground station comm check complete.
Yeah,
Stand by
it
for
was a bit
TDRS
too
comm check.
political. Influenced by politics anyway. But if they'd have reviewed the launch videos of Discovery and seen the damage,
And just a reminder, you're hearing the Corps. That's
how much of that could have been avoided? They could have
If you
potentially
followed
said,
NASA
right, yeah,
missions in the
stay
past,
there,
that's the
stay in
Capcom
orbit, we'll send
position.
another
That is pretty
shuttle
much
with,
the
say,
singular voice
one
that's
person on
talking
it,
to
or
the
however
astronauts
many
throughout their
they can
flight.
get
That's
away
a
with.
position based here
Stay
in
there, stay on the
Hawthorne,
space
California.
station. We'll send another one up to come and get you.
And you'll also hear
Dragon, SpaceX, comm check, TDRS.
SpaceX Dragon, loud and clear.
Core, loud and clear. TDRS comm check complete. Stand by with comm checks with MD and LD in the launch configuration.
Dragon, MD on countdown 1. Comm check.
SpaceX Jason, loud and clear.
Copy, loud and clear. Glad to have you guys on board. Stand by for comm check on Dragon aground. Dragon, MD, Dragon aground, comm check.
MD Dragon, loud and clear.
MD, loud and clear. Stand by for comm checks with LD.
Dragon, launch director on countdown 1, comm check.
Good afternoon, Mike. Loud and clear.
I have you the same, and good afternoon. Stand by for my comm check on Dragon to ground.
Didn't they just do comm check on ground?
Dragon SpaceX on Dragon to ground, comm check.
SpaceX Dragon, loud and clear.
I'll read that in a
I
second.
have you the same. Back to core.
And Dragon SpaceX, this concludes our launch configuration comm checks. Report when ready for seat rotation per section 2 of 4.100.
Dragon will put that in work.
Some politician went on record as saying
so
it's like riding a broomstick made of dynamite with two firecrackers taped to the side. And his was seen as a legitimate criticism. It's like, dude, you know, safer way to apply that much Delta V to an orbital vehicle. Ooh,
but you could see
Doug
Hurley using his right hand. He has the talk button built into the seat itself. So just, again, showing you all of the different systems.
Tell you what, we'll fly up there with jet engines. Yeah, they're much safer.
One big circle for this whole spacecraft.
Yeah, that'll work well.
Really cool to see those comm checks live. Jessica, thank you so much for walking us through some of the really cool updates, the upgrades. Did you have any other cool stuff besides?
Let's see. So I don't know if you guys can see, but we have the Dragon clean room here. And one of the coolest things is it is right on the main floor of our main building. So thousands of employees walk by here all the time and get to see Dragon in its final processing before it goes to the Cape. On Wednesday, the Crew 1 capsule was in here. It looked almost done. It looks a little empty right now, but that's because that capsule went off into our separate test facility for its final propulsion checks. So we do leak checks and
Crew 1 Dragon is actually ready as well.
Because it's high pressure testing.
Or nearly ready.
And then the vehicle will come back here, get its final thermal protection system put on, and then it will ship off to Cape Canaveral and get ready to launch 4 astronauts to the International Space Station.
I mean, what's it like to see it? Because when you see the first initial
Yeah,
pressure vessel,
politicians
it's
will
nothing
never
like
change.
The final thing. So what's it like to just
And
kind
you think
of
how
watch
bad
it
it is
go
in the
through,
UK right now
and
with
you just see little bits
politicians.
get added on,
Not one of
added
them
on,
can
and
speak
then
the truth
next thing you know,
between
it's
them.
a whole spacecraft.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's so amazing.
Or
I'm
what
so
they want you
impressed.
to
You know, when you
believe
look
is
at a
the
machine,
truth.
you're like, how does this ever get built? How do people ever do this? And it really is just step by step, one piece at a time. Each piece has its critical function, and you get to watch that being built right in front of your eyes every day when you
Dragon
come to work.
SpaceX, we
an
are ready
engineer, whatever
and
you do
initiating
here.
seat rotation.
Dragon copies.
And we just heard the seat rotation's about to begin. So, Jessica, thank you so much. Cool facts about Dragon for everyone to listen in on, and we can see the seats start to rotate now. Pretty soon, Bob and Doug will be in their launch configuration, and they'll be ready to go. We can see the seats slowly start to rotate.
That's cool.
Again, they're in this down position just to make it easier to climb in and out of Dragon. They'll rotate to this launch position to put their backs a little bit more parallel to the ground. It makes taking the G-force a little bit easier for the crew on the way uphill, but most importantly, positions those touchscreens directly in front of them, which is just their gateway into Dragon.
Dragon SpaceX, seats are in the launch position.
We copy.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, and confirmation the seats are in the launch position. Let's go down now to Gary in Mission Control Houston, where I know the entire
Politics here has
JSC
been an
team is
enormous
standing
pile
by
of
and ready to
fail
see
for like
Dragon
9
take
to
flight
10
today.
years now.
Over to you, Gary.
Definitely. I would even
Thanks,
go as
Dan,
far as
very
say
much
it's,
so.
it's
Great to see
longer
good
than
comm
that.
checks from Bob and Doug, and that their seats have been rotated into their launch position. Here in Houston, Flight Director Zeb Scoville has pulled space station flight controllers,
I
and all
noticed
systems
that,
are go for launch from the space station side of things.
Doug
Essentially,
has
the
taken
station's
that
prepared for
SpaceX
Dragon
name
to arrive
tag again
19
and
hours after launch.
stuck it
Chris
to
Cassidy
the
has completed his
to the
preparations
control panel there,
for Bob
and they've got a
Doug to
couple of
arrive.
what look
He's
to
got a
be
chance to view some of the
little
broadcasts, and he said
calculators
they
or
were, quote,
timers
looking
that
sharp.
both
Flight
him and
controllers here
Bob
will monitor the
have stuck up
countdown,
there.
but really
You'd have
it's up
thought
to
they'd
the
have had
teams
that
in
built
Kennedy
in.
and Hawthorne to get us to liftoff at this point. So we want to hear your comments as we continue to count down to launch. So let's go to the social desk now. Tahira.
Thanks, Gary. So glad to hear that polls are go, at least on your end, and just hoping this weather just works out good for today's launch. I mean, people online are on the edge of their seats. We just checked numbers, and we are up to 1.1 million viewers right now. That's almost double when we checked last time. And right now, we also have Columbia, South Carolina is leading the viewership, so interesting to see how that changes. Let's take a broader look at the conversation online with this heat map of the United States. Now, this shows Launch America mentions by state over the past week, and we have California leading right now with the most mentions, and I'm very surprised. I really thought the Space Coast would take it home, but let's see how this changes over the course of the broadcast. And with that, let's see what y'all are posting online right now. Guys, I mean, check out these outfits. Absolutely love it.
Oh, no.
Love to just see how people are making things creative for this launch and really making it their own, putting their personal touch on it. Let's take a look at another. We're back to the Launch America Heat mentions, so let's see how that changes over the course of this broadcast. But really fun to see those photos online. Oh, we have another space pet, guys. These do not get old, so please use hashtag Launch America on social media. Right now, it looks like we have Astronaut Boris, who is ready for his launch in the Crew Dragon capsule. I love seeing the pet owners unite for this
They were
mission.
probably
So
laughing
like I
so
said,
hard. Oh,
definitely
God.
use that hashtag. We will be looking for it during the show. Marie, what's the latest?
They were probably
update?
laughing hard at that outfit and
Thanks to
thought,
Hurley,
oh God, I need to hit the buttons.
2 hours, 26
Oh no, I
minutes,
can't
47
even.
seconds and counting from liftoff of the
Wrong
Falcon
button.
9 from the Kennedy Space Center here in Florida, carrying NASA astronauts Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken. You see them right now aboard SpaceX's Crew Dragon spacecraft. It's been a very exciting day so far.
Oh God, that's not
the crew
looking
has
so
been
good.
up since about 8 o'clock this morning as they prepare to head to the International Space Station as part of this demo
keep those clouds
mission for
away.
NASA.
And as we speak, the astronauts, as you saw, are inside Dragon and have completed their comm checks. So now they can communicate with the teams here on the ground. And their seats have rotated upright to their reclined launch positions, allowing them to see and access the display panel. And now they are about to initiate their
Okay, so we will be
check to make
switching
sure their
over to
seat is in
Space
proper
Lab
working
at
condition
8
before liftoff.
p.m. UK time.
And in just a little bit,
On
at about
YouTube.
T-minus 1 hour and 55 minutes, it could happen a little bit sooner though. We're running a little bit ahead of schedule. We will see the closeout team begin to close the side hatch in preparation for flight. And that's going to be one of the key visual milestones on the timeline to liftoff. Now, we want to take you to a couple of special guests we have joining us. They are with Daryl Nail at the OSB-2 viewing location, NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine, and also Kennedy Space Center Director Bob Cabana is there with Daryl. Hi, Daryl.
Hi, Marie. That's right. We're in the fifth floor of the Operations and Support Building here at the Kennedy Space Center with a nice view of Launch Complex 39, and the two men that you mentioned are here to join me to answer a few
Where's
questions.
Elon?
We're
He's not here yet.
excited to have them both here, and they are, of course, Bob
Maybe he's
Cabana,
done
the
his bit.
director of the Kennedy Space Center,
God, blurry.
and Jim Bridenstine,
Focus, guys,
administrator
focus.
for NASA. Gentlemen, thanks again for making the time to be here. Of course,
This
the
is
big
good
story
as
right
it'll
now,
go.
Jim, is the
Oh
weather.
yeah, I
So let's
forget
talk a
NASA
little bit
doesn't
about
stream
that.
at high quality,
We
do
can see
they?
there's some clouds building. That was forecast. You took part in a weather briefing this morning. What do you know about the weather and the decision that was made to say, hey, let's give this another shot today?
Yeah, so what got us last time was the electricity in the atmosphere, and of course today there are in fact buildups. It doesn't look like there
Awesome.
are thunderstorms
Thanks for
at
host
this
Space
time,
Lab.
but they are
We'll
expected.
be joining you later.
The question is, when do those thunderstorms go away, and when those thunderstorms materialize, where are they located? We are predicting about a 50-50 shot of going this time, but given the fact that we are in late May in Florida, we have to take every shot we can get. So it's not likely that in a couple of days it's going to be any better than it is today. So we are a go for launch right now, and we are hoping that the weather will hold up. We almost
Jeter
made
up
it
there.
on Wednesday, and the trend is better today than it was on Wednesday. So we'll see.
And I saw a forecast that said the clearing is supposed to happen right around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So
That's right.
we're hoping that
Launch is at 3:22,
Right.
clearing, at the earliest 3 o'clock, at the latest 3:30. So depending on when that happens,
Give some
we'll
of the
either be
action
go
there.
or no go. But again,
Give
we're
some
going
of
to take
it
every
from
shot
a show
we got.
live in
also
Cone at
watching the
7:20 makes
downrange weather
sense
for
given some
a
of the
potential
facts on
rescue
board.
in case there were
Yeah.
a report.
That's right. So we
Yeah,
have these staging
I don't
areas.
get
When we
why
go
they
from
do
the
that.
first
I mean,
stage
I
to the
get
second
that you
stage,
can't.
that's a higher risk evolution.
You've got the NASA
We
TV
want to make
website,
sure that in the
and
case
it's
we have to exercise the launch abort at that point, that the weather is
It's
good.
an
And of
old
course,
tech,
that's off
really.
the
I mean,
coast
it's
of-
been
of
sat,
North
you know, you've
Carolina.
got NASA
The big
TV
thing there is
and
it's
their
great that we have a
website,
launch
and
aboard capability.
they're
The
probably
challenge
set
is
up
that
for
launch
what
aboard
was
capability
current at the
includes
time that it was
parachutes.
created,
And
but
with
they've never
parachutes, you've got to make
modernised.
sure that you've got the weather to come
Whereas,
down if there are
you know,
thunderstorms or
YouTube and
downbursts
Twitch
or
can
high
handle a
winds.
lot higher.
That's problematic for the parachute system.
Right.
And it's
sea
really
states
easy
as well,
nowadays. I mean,
bouncing that capsule around
God,
the ocean.
I'm streaming at
Bob, of course, you're an
1080p,
astronaut.
60 hertz,
You know
and
what it's like
I'm just
to
on a
hit the
basic
reset
computer.
button and do it all over again. Get into the spacecraft, get ready to go.
You was on a
only be
PS4
told,
when you
"No, we're
realised
not
there
gonna
was
go
a launch
today, we're
today.
gonna try it
Brilliant.
again." What's
Did you
that
forget
like? And
that
then-
you'd?
and then tell me about the mindset. As
Did you
have to
forget about your own
reset.
stream?
Do you feel less anxious? Do you feel more comfortable the second time around?
You know, Daryl, first off, my last flight, we counted down to 18 seconds and didn't go. Man, if
So,
we get to 18 seconds,
as
we're
planned,
ready.
I'm gonna
The
stick
key
with
is,
Twitch
you know, it's the training
on
that we
here,
go
and
through,
then
all the repetitions
when
we do, we practice everything, including
when you go
scrubs.
live Space
And,
Lab, I will.
just because you didn't launch doesn't mean you don't
I'm
have
already
something
in
to
the
do. So you
in
got
the
to go through
Discord
those
chat
backup
ready,
procedures.
but
It's all done very
when
professionally.
you go live,
Then it was out of the
I
vehicle
will
and
shift
into the Astrovan,
anyone that's
back to
watching
crew
on my
quarters,
YouTube
and
and
we had
direct
a
them to
positive
your
attitude. We got a good
your
night's
stream.
rest,
I've already put
and
a
we
link.
went through it again. It's a matter of doing your job, and these guys are well prepared. You know, it's all part of what we do.
I've already put a link to your
They stopped the
YouTube
count at 17 minutes,
into
but
my
you had it all
description.
in just a few seconds. It's a big difference.
And the truth is, the next night, actually, everything went really better. You know, the weather was bad the first time. I was kind of glad we scrubbed. And we scrubbed for an issue with the vehicle that they later sorted out. As it turned out, we wouldn't have had enough prop to rendezvous with the Russian functional cargo
True,
block.
but you don't have to meet the stringent
you know, the next
broadcast
night,
bit rate
it was
and
just
transport
a
requirements
perfectly
running over
smooth launch
commercial.
count. Everything just
Yeah,
went like clockwork.
that's
and,
true.
It set the stage for an
but-
awesome mission.
I think you told the press before you walked out. I think you were over there. At
Yeah,
Astronaut
I
Crew
mean, there
Quarters.
is
We're
that,
going today.
but
I'm
equally,
wondering, where's the source of that confidence coming from?
I just got a feeling, you know, you got to have a positive
what they
attitude.
could do
You know, I watched a lot of weather down
is
here supporting
encode
shuttle missions, and I'm hoping that
at
those clouds
1080p
over
60.
the I-95 corridor, the Indian River, keeps them west of
have
us,
it
and that stuff that's building
directed
offshore is far
to
enough off that
the
we
internet.
can stay in an open window here at the Cape.
And
Good.
then
Well, we got your positive
equally,
vibe going, and we
it could be
appreciate
obviously
that.
broadcast through the internet
Jim, when
at
you were,
1080p, for
down
instance.
in the astronaut crew quarters,
And then
when
you
were
have a
suiting up,
separate stream,
got a
which
second chance
I you know, I'm streaming to two places
Tell
at
us
once
about
here now.
that, and what was their demeanor, what was their mood
That
today?
goes
So again,
from
they
your
seem
source
loose. They were loose last time.
to
They're
your,
loose this
your
time.
satellite.
They're definitely ready to go. They're excited.
And
they've been
it
wanting
could
to
be
go for a long
downrated
time now.
to
You know, what was, I'll tell you
720p
one
on the
thing that I
fly
thought was a
to
little
meet
interesting
those
is,
bitrate requirements.
You know, Bob Benkin was making fun of Doug Hurley because on Doug's last flight, they scrubbed
It's
5
not
times
hard.
before launching on the 6th time. So Bob Benkin seems to think that Doug Hurley is the problem in this case. But to see them joking about that as they're getting suited up, ready to go, yes, they're trained, they're ready, but they're also loose, and that's good to see because they're going to have to be on their game when we launch.
These guys are pretty impressive. Doug Hurley and Bob Benkin. I mean, Doug Hurley, an incredible pilot. Bob Benkin, he's got a PhD in mechanical engineering.
And he's a flight test engineer himself in the Air Force. Yeah.
Well, in your assessment, why are these guys the right stuff?
Well, this is a test flight, and you know we have great astronauts that are chemists. We have great astronauts that are botanists. We have really talented and diverse, a very diverse astronaut corps in general.
It is
but
fine.
This is a test flight, and for a test flight, what do you want? You want test pilots. You want people for a living.
I think
They've made a
SpaceX
living
actually
flying new
streams
things
at
that have never been flown before.
1080 and above, don't they?
You know, Bob Benkin and
it's
Doug
just
Hurley
NASA
are
that's the hold up,
two
and obviously
people that
NASA
you would
TV
want,
and
in
all
a
of
test
that.
flight, and that's exactly what this is.
Bob, you're a pilot too.
But again, you
wanna
think how
weigh in
bad
on
it
Doug
is.
Hurley. He
Oh,
seems
hello.
like,
He's
he's
hosting
got
me
the right
again.
mentality and
What can I
smooth
say?
customer.
He's a naval aviator, a marine pilot, a test pilot. I'm all in. He's a great guy.
I mean, you think how
And
the state
tell
of
me
a
a little
British
bit
broadcast.
about, in terms of the Kennedy Space
You've
Center,
got BBC
right?
and
So
other
you've been
various
here
channels that
since
have HD
2007,
versions of them,
right?
but you still get standard definition
2008, sorry, off by 1
versions.
year. 2011,
when BBC goes to local news,
I grew up here. My dad worked for NASA. My uncle was a contractor.
yes, it does say that.
wheel stop
It
happened
does say
the
that
next
you're
day.
hosting me.
My
That's
uncle
fine.
got the layoff notice, right? And it 30, 60 days. It was depressing. We're talking
And
thousands of people laid off.
when it goes to local
Atlantis
news on the
landed on a
BBC at
Thursday. On
least,
Friday,
it
2,000
will
contractors
cut
got
off
pink slips and walked out the
and
door.
have a
Yet they worked on
no,
that
we
vehicle.
can't show this
That was
screen
the best vehicle we ever flew. The cleanest.
on
That's the
HD.
dedication of the workforce here.
So They will only transmit
You called it a depressing
SD
time.
or standard definition on local
The
news.
fact that the shuttle program
Yeah, I'm
was
gonna
something that the
quickly check
government
that anyway,
completely,
Space Lab, make sure
had ownership
it's all
of
good.
and paid for. Now we're moving into this commercial crew, which you've overseen making that transition. And tell me about that
Hoping I
9
can
years
get,
in which we made that move.
Well, obviously, everybody was really attached to the shuttle. I mean, it was our history for 30 years. It did an awesome job. The Hubble Space Telescope, all the satellites it deployed, building the International Space Station.
It says you're hosting.
But when I first got here,
That's all
I
fine.
told everybody the shuttle program's going to end. We have to start preparing for our future, and nobody wanted that to hear that. But how many times in your life do you get to define what you want your future to be? And we set out on this bold goal of trying to turn KSC into a multi-user spaceport, supporting both government and commercial
Yeah, I'm in
operations.
Dragon Chat.
And I've got a very persistent
I'm
team.
just going to
They
sit in
worked
there
extremely
ready for
hard,
whenever you
and through a number
want
of
to join.
agreements, we were able to make it happen. And this is the future.
Hello, Fan
Commercial
Ninja.
spaceflight, the administrator says
Launch,
it all the time.
I
We wanna
believe,
establish
is
a commercial environment in low Earth
2
orbit so that we can
2 hours
focus
and
on the hard
17
job of
minutes time,
exploring beyond
roughly.
our home planet, to establish that presence in our solar system beyond planet Earth, establish a sustained presence on the moon, get to Mars, establish a presence there.
I've got a feeling
we can't do that
viewer
if we're
count
locked here
on
in low Earth
YouTube is
orbit.
broken.
And
For the last
commercial
2
crew
streams,
with
it
both
said 0.
SpaceX and Boeing, that's the beginning
And people have
of a
been
whole new
talking
era
to me
of
in
space
chat
travel.
whilst
Very
it said
good.
0.
Quick question. We've got, of course, a special guest coming back today. The President of the United States plans on being here. Jim, you took him around the first time around. How did that go? I think I saw a picture on Twitter. He signed some space
It looks like
hardware.
they're getting
That's
ready
right.
to say
So
bye.
he took a look at the Orion crew capsule. Of course, the Orion for Artemis 1 is ready to go. And he signed, a piece of hardware that will fly on the crew capsule for Artemis 2. So that's kind of, and not just him, but the First Lady and the Vice President,
might
the
wipe
Second
it
Lady,
off.
they all signed it. So,
Oh, look,
so
Donald
their names are gonna
Trump's
fly
signature's
around
on
the
this
moon
bit.
on Artemis
Just
2,
wipe
which
it
is
off.
exciting. But I just want to give Colonel Cabana a compliment here, because he did bring this spaceport through a very difficult time. And now it is a multi-use spaceport, and we do have commercial, and we have, in fact, even international launches here, and now we're going to have commercial crew launches. Bob has done a wonderful job transforming this spaceport. That's why we're doing commercial crew. NASA wants to be one customer of many customers. We want to have numerous providers that are competing on cost, innovation, safety, driving down costs, increasing access. But even better today, when I took this job just a few short years ago, our budget at NASA was around $19 billion. The budget request that President Trump gave us for next year is $25 billion. We are in a great position because the president is committed to space exploration. Of course, he's committed to the Space Force. We haven't had this much support for space since John F. Kennedy, and we've got bipartisan support. Everybody wants to see the Artemis program be successful. Everybody wants to see not just the next
I
man,
don't think everyone
but the
does.
first
There's always
woman on
going to
the
be a
moon, and that's what
politician
we're
there
building here.
somewhere
Yeah, it's key to
fighting
key to
against
it all
because it
is that
doesn't suit.
bipartisan support, and of course, what the work that Bob's been doing.
Yeah,
in
so
commercial
Fan
activity
Ninja on
all around this
YouTube.
place. We're going to get
I'll
to
go
some
to a
questions
Twitch chat in
on
a sec.
social media real quick that our audience wants to find out.
It's looking
So
more
the first question
favourable.
is from James
So the
on
weather
Twitter,
was looking really
and
good
he
a
asks,
little while ago,
what is
but
the
there has been
hardest
some
part
cloud
of
come
going to
over.
space? We're gonna have to give that
Chances
question
of
to Bob.
launch on Wednesday was 40% or 6.
What we are afraid of is
they're
stuff we don't
50-50
have
at the
knowledge
moment.
about. And that's what
But we're
we
hoping
do
it's
when
going to
we
be
learn how to
on
be
the good
astronauts.
side of that.
We
But
train,
they're a bit more
okay?
eager
You spend a
to
long time
launch
as an
this
astronaut
time, I
candidate
think.
learning. You spend a long time preparing for a
Jim
mission, for an
Bridenstine
International
has
Space
actually
Station
said,
mission,
look,
training around the world
it's not a
on all the
favourable
different,
time of year
modules
within
and
Florida
everything.
for
It's like
weather.
2.5 years of training
And we
before
have
you
to
get
take our
on
chances.
orbit for that,
So
time
hopefully
to
by
actually
that
do
he
your
means they'll
work.
be a bit more
So
open to
I'd have
launch
to say
when
the
it's less
hardest part
favourable.
is the preparation
But
for it.
equally,
You
it's a
are
new
so
rocket,
prepared
so
when
they're
you
going to
go.
be
You just have
cautious
total
at the same
confidence.
time.
You know that you are very well trained for what you're going to
And
do.
Twitch.
You have an
BBC Local
outstanding
News isn't
team
to
on the
do with
ground
resolution, it's
supporting
to
you,
do
and
with the
that is so
stream you're
important
watching
to
not
have
being
that ground support as
split
you
into whatever
climb
the
into
local
that
stream would
vehicle.
be,
You know
because
that
I
they've
don't
done
know.
their very best to ensure your safety
Sheer
and
number
a
of streams
successful
that need
mission.
to support
But
24/7.
after that, it's a piece of cake.
It's a
Except no
transitional
simulator
issue
on
between
Earth
local
can
broadcast
prepare
DVD
you
from the
for
antenna
what those
towers
guys are going to feel. It's
to
better than a cash
internet-based
shot off an aircraft
broadcasting.
carrier.
I
Right,
believe
okay.
it. Maybe one day I'll get to try.
I mean, actually,
The
through the TV,
commercialization
though.
effort
If you're
we
watching
want
it on
everybody
TV,
to be able to fly into
it
space.
cuts off.
Absolutely.
That's a great point about preparation.
If you're on a
because
HD
that's
channel,
not the highly visible
but
part.
I
The
assume
launch
that's
is, and so
the same
it's
problem.
good to know that all that preparation leads to that confidence. By the way, just an update operationally, they're getting ready to close the hatch door. You
Yeah,
can
they
see,
are closing the hatch
on your
door, and
screen
they'll be
there,
doing
the,
leak tests
the
soon.
workers there are getting ready to get that closed and working on that right there with Doug Hurley and Bob Binken on the inside of Crew Dragon. Our next question is from Mathis on Twitter, and he asks, what kind of operations will the astronauts do between the liftoff and docking with the International Space Station? I know you pay a lot of attention, Jim, to the operations, especially of this mission. What do you know about that?
Looks like
So
he's
there's a
streaming
number
as
of
well
things.
now.
The first thing that they have to do is, of course, we've got a number of burns to get in phase with the International Space Station. We've got
Wouldn't
some
winter
boost
weather
burns
be
as
less
well. We're
favourable?
talking about
Well, they don't
operating the
have
rocket
so
engine
much winter weather
to get
in
in
Florida.
alignment with the
It's
space
quite a
station.
tropical climate.
But I'll tell you, the biggest thing that we need the astronauts to
I
do
believe
once
anyway.
they get on
Don't
orbit and before
tell
they
me
dock
if I'm wrong here.
is rest. We need them
guys.
to eat.
I would,
We need them
you know,
to
I'd
rest. We
appreciate
need
it
them
if
to be
obviously not
prepared
being
for that
from the area.
docking.
But
once they are in the range
but
of
they're
the
a
International
bit,
Space Station,
um,
they're going to start maneuvering the spacecraft themselves.
winter
Not
weather is a bit
automatic,
more
but they're gonna do it
stable, I
themselves.
believe.
They are in fact test
So
pilots, and as
at the
test
minute
pilots,
they're
they will
getting
test
they're getting a
fly
lot
this
of
vehicle to
storms,
make
and the
sure
issue
that
is
it operates
as much
as
with
advertised. And of course, then
wind
they will dock
speeds
with the International
and
Space Station.
electrical charge in the
a unique
atmosphere
capability
and
here
the
is
air,
it's automatic rendezvous and automatic docking. And
with
so,
the risk
we're
of
gonna be able to
lightning
see
and
that
what
for the
have
first
you.
time as well.
That's going to be
being
exciting to see.
as
Thank you
much
for sharing
an
that
issue.
with us. Jim Bridenstine, Administrator of NASA, Bob Cabana, Director
Don't
of the
forget,
Space Center.
one of the
Thank you
Apollo
both
missions
for
actually
joining us.
had a lightning
And we're
strike,
gonna
I
send it back
believe.
to Marie in the studio.
It was 12.
All right, thanks a lot, Daryl and Mr.
Can't remember which one
Bridenstine
it
and
was
Mr.
now,
Cabana
but
for joining us.
they actually had a
You
lightning
can see
strike
some
during
clouds starting to
launch,
gather over
and
Launch
a
Complex
couple of the
39A.
flight
We're keeping a
computers
close eye
had a
on
little bit
weather.
of a
Again,
fritz.
50% chance of launching
But
today.
they
We
managed
just
to get
gotta see what
past
the
it and
weather's
carry
gonna
on.
do. A little bit ago, we heard the crew complete their comm checks live
Might have
on
been
the
8,
air.
actually.
We saw their seats rotate. That helps get them into a little bit more
See,
comfortable
it's getting very
position for the
overcast
Chief
now. It was
Forces
quite
during
clear
launch.
when I first
and more
went online.
importantly, it helps them be in a better position to interact with the screens in front of them. They completed their suit leak checks. We saw
Looks
during
like
the
it's
interview
raining.
just a few minutes ago the hatch begin to close, and so inside the white room there, the pad closeout team is in there still doing some work. That hatch close is, you know, it's not as simple as just closing a car door. There's a process to seal it and check it and make sure that everything is sealed properly.
I was right the first
Lauren?
time. Cool.
Yeah, that's correct.
I know it's one of
If
them.
they haven't already started, one thing that will be coming up next is the leak check. What they'll
preparing
do
for that now
is
by the
they'll
looks of it.
attach
There we go.
a piece of ground support equipment. They don't have it in their hands right now, so it looks
Yeah,
like
they
it
do.
hasn't started yet. Ah, there it is. You can see it there. The closeout member number 5. It's already attached to the side hatch mechanism, and what they'll do is they're essentially checking for the leak rate, and they'll hold pressure there for a few minutes and then track that change in pressure over time to make sure that it's within bounds, making sure that you don't have any issues with those O-rings there that are holding that pressure. And so once they complete that leak check, they will then do what is the called the installation of, or the final installation of the
Awesome.
STEP, or side pressure equalization plug. That's basically a
Looks
a
like they got a
plug that,
multimeter there as well.
once the capsule splashes down,
I
what you
I
do
know it's
is,
not that, but it looks
actually
like one.
remove that, and what it does is equalizes pressure across the hatch. So once that thing is plugged in, you know that everything is super tight and that you shouldn't have any leaks on orbit.
One of the other things that I think is pretty cool about Dragon, you can kind of see them on the edges there are some of the windows. And I know that Dragon started out as cargo. It was Cargo Dragon. You have your cargo version, and before you moved on to the Crew Dragon version, but you even had windows on the cargo version. Can you explain kind of why that was?
Yeah, the very first Cargo Dragon that we ever launched had a window over the hatch, over the side hatch, and the reason we did that is we've always envisioned Dragon to ultimately be a crewed vehicle.
That's cool.
So even in the beginning, for the very first
Oh, it is a
vehicle we made,
multimeter.
which didn't even really carry
Ah.
much cargo.
I assume it
we
has
put
more
that window
function than
there,
that, but
and
it is.
to us symbolizes what Dragon's purpose has been all along. You know, taking those steps, starting off with the CRS program and resupplying the space station with with experiments and food and crew provisions for the astronauts on board, to now putting our own putting NASA's astronauts in our own vehicle. It's that natural progression to what we were aiming for the whole time.
And Leland, what's your take on the touchscreen technology? We saw a little bit about that. Obviously, this is a very different kind of look than what we saw during the space shuttle.
It's the future. I mean, we had our LCD displays, and we had lots of buttons to press, and valves and switches. And I think this new technology will allow us to get through procedures much more much faster, because we had paper flight data file that we're having to turn to different pages and get to things. And I think this will make it much more efficient to go through your malfunctions and your procedures with the touch screens. And I think having the gloves, being able to touch the screens and work within the gloves, everything's kind of sleek and efficient. There's not a lot of wires and things hanging off, and their knee boards, you can see their knee boards on their left knees, and so that's for some extra little notes and things.
The hatch is closed now.
There's some commentary.
We are ready for the post-ingress briefing when you are ready to copy.
And we just heard confirmation on the loops that the hatch is closed, so that is a little bit ahead of schedule.
We are motivated to go today.
We're ready. Go ahead.
Okay, on the weather, we still have some rain showers moving through the area, but we do have a reasonable opportunity today, so we are proceeding into the count. We are going to take a look at both pad and ascent track weather at T-minus 1 hour and 30 minutes, and the next decision point will be prior to prop load.
Okay, we copy.
And on the vehicle health front, both F9 and Dragon health remains nominal with no items of note.
So we just heard the weather is still iffy.
Good news. Thank you.
The weather is still iffy.
This concludes the post-ingress brief. Report when ready for comm checks with Falcon 9 operators.
We are ready for the F9 operators.
Copy. Expect that shortly.
So when we hear that chatter pick back up, we're going to quiet right down so that you can listen into that along with us. But we just heard them discussing the weather briefly, still keeping an eye on that, but the next decision point is going to be before prop load. So we're going to press forward for now and then reevaluate before they start fueling the rocket. But in the meantime, it sounds like Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon are healthy, so the vehicle's in good shape, right? It sounds like kind of a little bit of a repeat from Wednesday, that we're just keeping an eye on the weather at this point.
You can see on their left legs, well, in that previous image.
And Dragon SpaceX comm checks with F9, you can expect it in about 1 to 2 minutes.
Dragon's ready.
All right, on their left legs there, they have these satchels that are strapped to their legs. Inside are some crew provisions, including these tablets that you see that they have displayed there.
You say, Lauren, those are tablets versus just knee boards that you can write on?
Or the tablets are inside.
Oh, they're inside.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And so when would they pull those tablets out to use them?
During the mission,
Okay.
while on orbit.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's coming, if the background noise is coming through over the air, but we hear the rain really picking up outside the studio here. So I'm kind of wondering if Bob and Doug are hearing the sounds of the rain clouds opening up over the pad. Looks like it's still kind of patchy out there. But again, we were following some thunderstorms that look like they may be making their way over here. It kind of looks like it's raining from that view. It's a little bit hard to tell through the haze.
All right, launch is now just over 2 hours away. Tahira, you are there with the social teams. Now that the hatch is closed and the rain's picking up and all kinds of exciting things are going on right now as we count down and get into the last 2 hours of the count, I bet things are getting pretty interesting on social media.
Hey, Lauren. I mean, yes, they are. So many different things are going on right now, and I think people online are just wondering what's going to happen with today's mission. I have TweetDeck open right now, and it is just scrolling with the conversation of people around the nation talking about today's launch attempt. We also just checked viewership, and we are now up to 1.4 million people watching this live broadcast, so really hope things look good with weather. And on that note, let's take a look at some of the things being said on Twitter right now. So it looks like, oh, we just have some more future astronauts. I really love seeing the young generation just getting mobilized, getting excited about today's mission. Looks like we've also got some Godspeed and safe travels for both astronauts today. Really do wish them the best of luck on this second attempt. Hope it happens. Some throwback photos, all from people visiting NASA's centers, and also just let's do this. I love this can-do attitude, and I just love seeing that people are still keeping the energy alive for today's launch. So there were obviously some disappointing reactions to Wednesday's scrub, but let's take a look at how
When did I turn
people
my
are
microphone
getting
off?
excited for today's attempt.
Yeah, so we're 935,000 across both streams.
Ready for takeoff.
This is the same video we saw the other day, isn't it?
Launch America. 3, 2, 1, go! Ready for liftoff?
What? The worm.
I hope you guys make it safe to the space station.
I'm sorry, but that just reminds me of one of those auto-generated
how
Facebook
fun is that
videos.
video? I think I will definitely have to attempt the worm after this, but just really glad to see everyone in good spirits leading into today's second launch attempt, and I really hope everybody will have something to smile about. And with that, let's head back to Lauren. Lauren.
Thanks to hear it. So
Lauren.
it looks like people are pretty
Lauren.
stoked about today's attempt. Please continue to join the conversation by using the hashtag LaunchAmerica across all the social media channels.
Yeah, I really love seeing the little kids get excited. I know my 3-year-old is super excited. She's got an astronaut sleeping bag and
Really?
she loves to climb in it. Yeah, it's the body of the bag is a spacesuit, and then the head is empty where the pillow is. So when she gets inside, it looks like she's got a spacesuit on. So she loves it.
That's the inspiration for that next generation of explorers going to take Doug and Bob's place one day. And I think we have some people out there that are so interested in our conversation about the worm
Stoney loves
ball.
essays,
We created
come
something called the worm ball.
Yeah, I was checking my email during that because
Stoney
I
ain't
emailed
far
you guys
from
the
you, to be
worm ball,
honest.
and I was like, what is this? I'm having a hard time seeing it, but what is the worm ball?
So it's a NASA meatball, which is, you know, what it should be.
Yes.
Okay, look at
Okay,
it. There it is.
all right, thank you. I need a visual.
So they took
Okay.
the angular NASA logo and
Oh,
put
yeah, I
in
do
the
that.
worm inside of the meatball. Can you live with that, Lauren?
You know what? That's a beautiful compromise. I'll take it. I'll take
It
it.
is. It's a nice marriage of the two.
That looked cool.
Yeah, so, truth.
Best of both worlds.
And there is another live look at Launch Complex 39A,
Look at that
and
rain
we have
on the
had the
left. Oh, it
opportunity
looks like
to
it's
share
cleared a
with
little
you
bit.
a lot about the SpaceX Crew Dragon sitting on top of Falcon 9, a lot about the crew themselves and the significance
Stage combustion
of today
cycle,
as
sometimes
the
known
official
as
return we
topping
hope
cycle,
of human launch
is a
capability
power
to
cycle of
American shores.
bipropellant rocket
But we
engine.
would be remiss
Stage
if we did not explain why this pad 39A is hallowed ground.
Ah, okay. Right.
Where go? Same tide. Where go? Altitude, velocity, light.
SS1 with its
Many of
white
NASA's storage missions
tank.
began
which
their
was the
daring
original.
journey from the exact same spot on Earth.
Oh God, who's?
Launch Complex 39A at the Kennedy Space Center.
That's a bit.
Of steel and concrete
I didn't mean all that.
rockets and guided each on their fiery ascent to space for over 50 years. There can be no launch without a launch pad, and this hallowed ground has a history greater than any other. Having evolved and been reshaped for each new era of space flight, it's alive with a heartbeat as strong as the first.
Oh Oh God, what do you
Launchpad
put now?
39A came to life
Space shuttle,
under
yeah.
the direction of project engineer Harry May, as NASA ramped up its efforts to achieve an unprecedented calling.
Why, some say the moon. Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain?
In 1962, Earth-moving machines sculpted its massive pyramid base to a height of 40 feet. Then, concrete was poured to hold it in place. To launch the world's first moon rocket, engineers cut a flame trench nearly the length of 2 football fields down the middle of the mound. It was then lined with heat-resistant bricks to deflect 7.5 million pounds of earth-rattling thrust, first felt on Apollo 8. Less than a year later, Apollo 11 launched from Pad 39A. And hundreds of millions of people around the world watched as it landed on the moon 3 days later. Nearly a decade after this Apollo era, 39A again took center stage with a new, one-of-a-kind spacecraft, the Space Shuttle. Millions of pounds of additional steel for service structures transformed the look, but not the purpose: human spaceflight. In all, 82 space shuttles blasted off from 39A until the very last.
Start. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All 3 engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff. The final liftoff of Atlantis on the shoulders of the space shuttle. America will continue the dream.
Roger roll, Atlantis.
Just don't even know what car it's possible. Wikipedia goes brr.
With the fleet retired, demolition crews removed the shuttle-era hardware to clear the way for NASA's monumental decision to lease this historic launch site to the private company SpaceX. Today, its sleek and modern design supports a family of rockets that has advanced the commercial age of American spaceflight.
How cool is that? I mean,
now, 50 years after it first sent humans to the moon, this historic spaceport stands ready for the next wave of human exploration.
it looks like we're about ready to close
we're
up.
looking live again at Pad 39A. We're looking at the pad closeout team. You can identify them by their numbers there, and we heard confirmation of the hatch being closed just a few minutes ago. So again, things a little bit ahead of schedule. And when I say ahead of schedule, I don't mean the launch time is changing. I just mean some of the specific milestones in the timeline. Those times are a little bit flexible, but that launch window remains instantaneous at 3:22 this afternoon.
There we go.
And Leland, you know, we just saw a piece about the history of Pad 39A.
All stations, Chief Engineer.
1 hour, 54 minutes left.
Check with the crew.
We're going to pause for that comm check.
Falcon 9, guidance, navigation, and control.
Dragon GNC on countdown 1, comm check.
GNC Dragon, we have you loud and clear.
GNC loud and clear. Stand by for comm check by the propulsion engineer.
Dragon, prop on countdown 1, comm check.
Prop Dragon, loud and clear.
Prop loud and clear. Stand by for comm check with the avionics engineer.
Dragon, avionics on countdown 1, comm check.
Avionics Dragon, loud and clear.
Avionics loud and clear. Stand by for comm check by ground segment engineer.
Dragon, ground segment on countdown 1, comm check.
Ground segment Dragon, loud and clear.
Ground segment
looking good so far.
Stand by for comm check by launch control.
Dragon, launch control on countdown 1, comm check.
Launch control Dragon, loud and clear.
Launch control loud and clear. Stand by for comm check by the chief engineer.
At this point, the crew would have already completed nearly 10 billion levels on. No one cool enough to fly on a rocket would play Candy Crush.
Dragon, Chief Engineer on countdown 1, comm check.
Chief Engineer, Dragon, we've got you loud and clear, Bala.
Chief Engineer, loud and clear. This completes the Falcon 9 responsible engineering
Awesome.
comm check.
And we just saw a thumbs up from Doug Hurley. We listened to a series of comms checks there, and so everything.
Chief Engineer on Dragon to ground.
Loud and clear on Dragon to ground.
Loud and clear. Well, good luck, and let's see if the rain clears up.
That sentiment is shared by all here.
Do it.
Well done. Talking over the astronaut.
Copy that.
Is that a yawn or a laugh? Yeah, it's intense.
So Bob and Doug, along with the launch teams and all of the rest of America, hoping the rain clears up here.
Not great,
but
still
as far
better.
as comms checks go, everything sounded pretty normal, pretty nominal there. So we're just waiting on the weather to clear up. But again, there's a live look at Launch Complex 39A, the site of 82 space shuttle missions where they began, and of course Apollo, the first mission to the moon, Apollo 11 lifted off from 39A. And Leland, you were just 5 years old when that happened. Take us back there.
Marie and Lauren, I was 5, and I was the antenna engineer during the broadcast. I was the kid standing behind the black and white Sylvania television holding the rabbit ears. And my dad said, move to the left, move to the right.
When I went
and I was
live.
trying to look around the television to see what was going on, but they said, no, don't move, stay there. So I never actually saw the actual, landing on the moon, Neil and Buzz walking on the moon. And the next day,
made to hold the aerial so that they can.
An astronaut. We just had this.
Everyone else can watch while you stand there and listen.
I didn't see it. I want to be Arthur Ashe, because Arthur Ashe trained 5 blocks down the street from where I grew up. And my dad talked about his excellence, his perseverance, his athleticism. And so it wasn't until I got to NASA, working as an engineer at NASA Langley, that a friend of mine said, you'd be a great astronaut. And I just laughed at him. And I didn't fill the application out, but another friend of mine got in, Charlie Camarda. And I said, if he can become an astronaut, I can become one. So I applied the next year and I got in the 1998 class. And I think about this, again, storied legacy, Pad 39A. I was there in 2008 and 2009, Space Shuttle Atlantis, the last one that came in with Doug and the rest of the crew. And it's just an amazing time to see this new era with Lauren, with your SpaceX Crew Dragon about to take off.
I never heard that story.
I've got a million stories. A million stories.
These people always have their stories, don't they?
It's so cool that you do have a lot of these kids that are watching today who have never seen a flight, a human space flight from KSC before, and
Kerbal Space Center.
It's their first time. And I'm trying to remember back. I grew up in the shuttle era. And I grew up in Los Angeles, and I remember sometimes when the shuttle would land at Edwards Air Force Base, you'd hear those sonic booms. You hear the double sonic booms in school, and we all just knew, oh, that's the space shuttle. It was just a thing. We just knew about that. And it did make me sad that there's an entire generation of kids who didn't grow up with that experience. And I'm just so proud that, today, hopefully, we get to provide that for kids and hopefully have more and more of these launches to the point where it becomes routine, hopefully never boring, but routine.
And there's talent in every zip code, so we have to make sure that every kid has the opportunity to do these types of things. If they believe in themselves, then we give them the right
it's a little
tools
bit
that
blue
they can
sky,
use
but
to
that's going to
be in
come
STEM
by the
fields.
time they want to launch.
We have a
Still
very
got them in
diverse
2
group of
hours.
people up here working together to get Bob and Doug off safely, and I think more people that see this type of diversity will have a chance to say, I can do that.
It can change in
Absolutely.
minutes,
And
can't
we have a lot of kids watching today, and we have an opportunity to hear from another really awesome role model, especially for the little girls in the audience. So we want to throw it over to Gary in Houston to talk to a very special astronaut standing by there. Hi, Gary.
Gary.
Hi, Marie. I have the distinct pleasure of being joined by one of NASA's record-setting astronauts and a recent resident aboard the space station, Christina Cook. Christina, thank you for joining us.
It's great to be with you today.
Christina, we're coming up on 20 years of continuous human presence on the International Space Station, and you were one of those humans. What's it like to see a new milestone like this launch unfold after so much history already?
You're right, so much history indeed, and it's just been great to watch it all unfold. I think for me, the most exciting thing is how NASA is not only innovating in what we do,
So I
exploring the
believe
universe,
in
pushing the
about
boundaries, getting
18
knowledge
minutes
on
we're
the
going to have
space station,
another
bringing it
decision
back to
point.
Earth for benefits here, but in how we do it. We're innovating in the implementation of those goals and of our mission. And what that means is that bringing in the private sector, bringing in a commercial space economy for low Earth orbit means space is going to be more accessible and more innovative. And it's just
Yeah,
an
a
awesome
lot of this is
era
going to be
that's great
very
to be able to
similar.
witness.
You hold the record for the longest single stay by a female astronaut in space. What's it like living aboard for so long?
Well, it is truly a privilege every single
Yeah.
day. I have to say,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
a
everything will
beautiful
be
thing
carefully
to look down
monitored.
on the Earth and to be able to kind of contribute to a space program that you yourself have held in such high regard your entire life. I would say that the biggest challenge going into sort of those longer times is remaining vigilant. The engineers make it so easy to live on board the space station. Sometimes you forget you're actually surrounded by such a hostile environment. So remaining vigilant both day to day to have that appreciation that you wake up with every day, and then also being vigilant knowing that things could take a turn for the worse at any time and you have to be ready to react to that. So it's a great privilege, but it also comes with great responsibility.
You came to NASA after the days of the shuttle program and you flew on the Russian Soyuz. What does it mean to have this private capability to fly astronauts to the station?
Well, I think it's just a great innovation in terms of our partnerships.
question, but you
When
wouldn't
we started out,
really
it was individual
yeah.
countries pursuing
Yeah.
space exploration. We brought in the international aspect of it, and now we're really folding in that commercial aspect, bringing the innovation of all of our American
Can you act?
industrial power, and
Yes, you're
recognizing
hired.
that the more partnerships we have, the more accessible, the more innovative space exploration can be. So it's an awesome time, and it brings with it so much more capability into the program as well. So it's not only how we're doing it, but it's what it brings.
We're looking forward to having this transportation from private companies. How does it help you do your job in space?
I think one concept that we have in NASA for safety and to mitigate risk is called dissimilar redundancy. And here now we're bringing up a whole second way of getting crew to the International Space Station and getting cargo, last minute cargo. So we're increasing how much science we can do on board the space station by twofold.
Yeah.
We're increasing how we can, our options for getting items up, stowage items, supplies,
Ninjas.
provisions, science
Ninjas.
experiments. So we're really just banking on the extra redundancy to make the program that much more robust.
We're watching Bob and Doug go through the final phases of preparing for this launch. What's going through your mind so close to liftoff?
Oh, it is such a great day indeed. It's interesting because I think it's not so much
They've had
what
to
is
do it
going
tw-
through
it
your
was so
mind,
good
but
they had
what's
to
not
do it
going through
twice.
your mind. You're not thinking about all the things could go wrong. You're thinking about enabling success by doing what you've been trained to do. One of the sayings we have is that on launch day, astronauts are sometimes the most calm people in the room, and I found that to be true on my launch day too. I think it's kind of this career culmination of everything you've learned, everything
Okay,
you've
go.
dreamed of, and you know that it's coming together in that day and that you're going to finally do what you're prepared to do, execute the mission, and it just really brings a sense of calm and readiness.
NASA astronaut Christina Cook, always an honor to hear from you.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
Well, once Bob and Doug arrive at the station, NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy will be ready to welcome them on board.
Space
So in
Lab, have you got an
anticipation
idea of
their
when you were
launch,
planning
he
to
had
go live?
this message for them.
Hello, everyone. I'm astronaut Chris Cassidy, commander
Yeah.
of Expedition 63 on board the International Space
Waiting
Station,
on CE
flying
times 2.
250 miles above the Earth. Like you, I'm excited about today's launch and the possibilities it will bring to America and to the world. But also, I'm very excited that two close friends will be arriving and joining the crew. I had the privilege of flying with Hurley
Yeah.
on both of our first shuttle missions back in 2009. Together, we came to the International Space Station and helped construct the amazing facility that it is today. Although this will be my first mission with Bob, it was my honor to follow him as the chief of the office when he left back in 2015 to begin training for this amazing mission. Personally, I've been very fortunate to fly in two different spacecraft. Launching from America on the shuttle, and most recently launching from Kazakhstan in the Soyuz. But I can't tell you how exciting it is to know that we're once again launching Americans from the coast of
Not yet, we ain't.
And finally, here's a story I'd like to share with you. Back in 1981, John Young and Bob Crippen launched on Space Shuttle Columbia, the very first space shuttle flight, marking the last time we flew Americans on a brand new vehicle.
Roger.
With them, they flew an American flag, representing America's technical prowess.
What a coincidence.
30 years later, that same flag was flown to the International Space Station. This flag remains here today, waiting for Bob and Doug. Our flag means so many things to our country, and this small piece of America represents what we'll be able to achieve together. We'll never stop exploring. And so Bob and Doug can take this very special flag home to Earth, where it awaits its next journey to the cosmos. In a few years, the first Orion crew will take this flag with it around the moon. All of this starts today. I'll be watching outside the window along with everyone else in America and around the world. I can't wait to look out the window and see my friends on close approach.
I think NASA secretly launched it 2 days ago and they're just showing it.
And go Bob
Be
and Doug.
recording to get more views. NASA Exposed 2020. Yeah.
And there again is a live look at Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where we are T-minus 1 hour, 41 minutes, 58 seconds and counting from liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket carrying Crew Dragon with astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley strapped inside. We can see some raindrops on the screen there. It looks like rain coming down at the pad, but we're still monitoring weather, and it sounds like there's going to be another decision point before they start fueling the Falcon 9 rocket, which is scheduled to happen at about T-minus 35 minutes. So we just heard a little bit about where they're headed. If the weather cooperates today, to the International Space Station. Leland, you've been there twice, and I know just from what you've told us, it's this Leviathan in space and the site of so much important work and partnerships happening.
Right. Chris Cassidy is up there floating in the Columbus laboratory that I installed, or our team of us installed on STS-122. And I think about, using this robotic arm that was made in Canada. The European Space Agency built the Columbus laboratory, and my job was to use that arm and attach it to the International Space Station. And as it was getting closer and closer, the motion just stopped. And I'm like, what is going on? And there are 4 ready-to-latch indicators that have a very slight spring force that I was moving so slowly with the hand controller, the translational hand controller, that spring force stalled out the motion. And Peggy Whitson was behind me, and she said, Leland, there's some commentary. Weather update, I think.
Go ahead, Zach.
Hey, Doug. We're still waiting for a weather update expected at 18 Zulu. Therefore, the next assessment will be closer to the propellant load time. We are currently no-go on launch weather, but we are showing an expected clear of 1830 Zulu.
Okay, copy all. Thanks for the update.
So we just heard if they were to launch right now, the weather would be no-go. However, it sounds like there may be an opportunity if the weather clears, as it sounds like they expect it may. So again, we're gonna keep listening as we continue talking. If we start to hear any kind of chatter, especially if it's about the weather, we're gonna do our best to quiet down so that we don't step on that and everyone can hear it along with us. But Leland, you were just talking about the work on station, and Peggy Whitson was getting ready to tell you something.
Well, so the Columbus laboratory is stalled out. It's about to be attached, and there are 10,000 people waiting. Their job security depended on me installing this thing properly.
Right.
And Peggy said, Leland, push just a little bit harder on the hand controller, and all 4 ready-to-latch indicators went green. And I was like, yes! And that was our primary mission objective, but that paled in comparison to what happened next. Peggy invited us over to dinner in the Russian segment, and we had this meal with people from all over the world, Russian, German, French, African American, Asian American, this diversity that we talked about earlier were up there breaking bread at 17,500 miles per hour while listening to Sade's Smooth Operator.
What?
It blew my mind. It was Smooth Operator, right? You
What
know?
an appropriate song for this
I know.
job, too, right?
Wow, does she know? She knows
Oh,
now.
yeah. And Dan Tani actually changed the song from Smooth Operator to Arm Operator. So you see Arm Operator.
Love it. Love it. And Leland, you actually, we were in another taped segment when you got a text from Drew Foystel. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, Drew Foystel, his good friend, just sent me a text saying that
okay, and
the
I'm
families
back.
say hello to all who are watching and thank the
gone full
nation
American.
and the world for their support and interest.
I hope.
And Chris Ferguson just actually sent me a text. He was the commander on STS-135 and one of my classmates from the 1998 class, and he says, "Way to go, Godspeed on Crew Dragon."
That's awesome. It's great to hear those words of support. Thank you guys for watching and everybody following along at home. I mean, the COVID-19 situation has been just a tough time for people stuck inside, homeschooling their kids, still trying to do their jobs, and so it's really cool to be able to watch this happening. And we see the pad closeout team.
Approximate T-minus
looks like they're
is
getting ready, or they've left the white room and they've already come down the crew access arm.
1
so
hour,
they are getting ready to leave
37
the pad
minutes.
now.
For Fan Ninja on YouTube.
And we are going to go now to the Operations and Support Building 2, where Daryl Nail is standing by with NASA's Chief of Staff to talk to us a little bit about some of NASA's ambitions beyond the International Space Station and its work with the Commercial Crew Program. Daryl?
Yeah, that's right. We're here in the mission briefing room at the top of Operations and Support Building here, where there's a lot of important people that are gathering to watch the launch here. And one of those people, it's not me, by the way. One of those people that is important is Gabe Sherman, NASA's Chief of Staff. We appreciate you being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Daryl.
You got kind of the insight of what's coming down the pike here at NASA. So, of course, today is Commercial Crew, and we're focused on that and seeding the commercial market. But what's off in the horizon for NASA?
Well, I'll just tell you, it's an incredibly exciting time to be at NASA, and you know this. I mean, you're here every day. But whenever you think about what we're doing with Commercial Crew, in the horizon in July, we're launching Mars Perseverance, which is just going to be an incredible thing for us. You look at the end of this year, SLS, the largest rocket in the world, is going through testing right now, going through green run testing, and we're hoping maybe by the end of the year we could even get it right out here to the Cape, which would be just an incredible achievement for our team. So there is no shortage of things to be excited about at NASA right now.
And it feels like everything is really starting to happen here recently with everything that you just mentioned. And if we get that first Artemis launch, that could be right around the corner as well.
Oh man, we're looking at I think late 2021 is what we're looking for. And so you think about SLS potentially moving from the green run to the Cape. You've got Orion finishing up its last little bit of testing. It moved from Plumbrook earlier this year, our station up there in Ohio, down to KSC. So we're looking at checking it out throughout next year, and hopefully we'll have the first integrated flight of SLS and Orion at the end of 2021. And I'm telling you, that is going to be a moment.
That will be exciting.
Yeah.
And there will be a thunderous boom right here at the
Yes.
Kennedy Space Center. So with Mars as the end goal, how does all of this get to that end point?
You bet. No, and I think that's what's so important about the Artemis program, right? Our long-term vision is to get to Mars. But when you think about Artemis, everything that we're doing at the moon is helping us learn, prove out capabilities and technologies, work through the right mission durations, understand how we utilize the resources of the moon potentially to go further onto Mars. So the technology, the science, the exploration, architecture that we're putting together, each and every piece of it is helping us learn a little bit more, prove out a little bit more so we can take that next giant leap to Mars. And so everything that we're doing at the moon helps prepare us to move on to Mars.
How about the activity in low Earth orbit, like Commercial Crew, which is happening today? How does that help us for missions to the moon?
Yeah, I think anytime you're launching humans, you're learning, right? And you're taking what you've
Launching
learned
is
and
learning.
you're moving it forward to the next mission. But
have they moved
I think it's
the,
really about
tower
the business
away?
case. If you
It's
think
got
about
really
what Commercial
light
Crew is, it's
in
NASA
that
moving from owning
window.
and operating hardware to buying a service, right? And if you remember just a few weeks ago, we awarded 3 contracts on the human landing system to commercial companies. And so we're hoping that we move to a day where we're actually buying a service to get our astronauts back and forth to the moon. So actually enabling the commercial market to go from
He's got
low
the
Earth
meatball.
orbit all the way out to lunar orbit. And so Commercial Crew is a great proving ground for that. Helps us prove out that business case, build those partnerships, and then we get
There's
a
a
feed forward to
lot
the
more
moon.
people
So
sat in the background as well.
It means a lot. This means a lot as we move
Than
on.
there was the
And it's
update.
really exciting when you talk about the Commercial Crew, the commercial aspect going to the moon, and those partners. They're going to be studying those landers to see if they are viable for NASA?
Yeah, working through a tremendous process with the commercial providers and NASA engineers going through initial designs right now, looking at the capabilities that they've proposed, and then trying to make decisions on which landing system goes early in 2024, which landing systems are better prepared for sustainability out in the later 20s. And so that is going to be an ongoing process throughout this year and moving into next. So it's going to be really exciting to kind of see what comes out as, hey, this is the lander that's going to take the first woman and the next man to the moon in 2024.
Right, so different than the time of Apollo when we went to the moon, and that program ultimately came to an end. The idea here, though, is to try to create some sustainability. Talk about that.
Right, and sustainability, you can get to sustainability if you have reusability, right? And that's what we're seeing with Commercial Crew for sure. But whenever you think about our human landing system, you're looking at a system that we put out there at the moon once we get to sustainability, and it's going back and forth, taking multiple trips to the lunar surface, back up to Gateway, which you're familiar with, is kind of our smaller space station we're going to put in orbit around the moon. So we are building an architecture that is going to enable reusability at the moon. Apollo never had that. And so whenever you think about driving down cost and increasing access, reusability, sustainability are critical.
So you get to see everything from a very high level at NASA. What's it like for you personally, I'm curious, to be here at the Kennedy Space Center to watch a launch and to just see this amazing facility where all of this activity happens?
Yeah, I think sometimes people think since I work at NASA, I'm around this stuff all the time. I'm not, right? I don't get to come down here nearly as often as I'd like. So it's just as exciting for me as it is for anybody else in this room. When you think about all the hard work that our team has put in to get us to this day, to actually come down and be a part of it with them is it's just overwhelming and incredible. So we're just a little bit excited.
All right, Gabe Sherman, NASA's Chief of Staff. We appreciate you joining us today and enjoy the launch. I certainly know you will if we're able to get that one off. We're going to toss this back now to Hawthorne, California.
Joining us now is SpaceX's Lars Blackmore to discuss SpaceX's future ambitions to visit the moon and Mars. Thanks for joining us again today for a second round.
You're welcome.
Could you tell us just a little bit about your background and what you do here at SpaceX?
Yeah, well, I'm in charge of entry and landing for Starship, which is SpaceX's next rocket after Falcon 9. And before that, I worked for many years on the same thing for Falcon. So hopefully today you'll see another one of those landings on a drone ship.
Awesome. And speaking of that, what role does reusability play in getting people to the moon and Mars in the future?
Well, it's really all about making human space flight affordable. And what you want for that is a 100% reusable rocket. Now, Falcon is only partially reusable, but Starship is going to be 100% reusable. And we've actually already started working with NASA on using Starship to send astronauts to the surface of the moon for the first time since 1972. Not only that, Starship will be refuelable on orbit. And the combination of those two things will let us send people basically anywhere in the solar system with more payload for less money than I think people have really been contemplating. I think for the first time we can seriously talk about things like lunar bases, or what SpaceX cares about most, a self-sustaining civilization on Mars.
Right. So what you're saying is I will have an opportunity soon to get on board one of those spaceships.
I very much hope so. Yeah.
So speaking of reusability and landing, I know you mentioned Starship will be refuelable in orbit, but Falcon does come back and land back on Earth. What are the challenges with actually landing on the moon and landing on a planet like Mars?
Yeah, well, you can't land like a plane, because the moon and the Mars either have no atmosphere or have a very thin atmosphere, and even if you could, there's no runway that someone's built for you. So that's one of the reasons that we do propulsive landing on Falcon, because we want to figure out how to do propulsive landing. That fundamental architecture works on basically any planet. If you have no atmosphere like the moon, you do a propulsive landing burn all the way. If you have a thick atmosphere like Earth, you let the atmosphere slow you down as you float down, then do a short landing burn at the end. And for Mars, which has an atmosphere but a very thin one, you do something in between the two.
Wow, yeah, that sounds really difficult, and I'm sure there's been a lot of effort put into that. Can you tell us anything about what we're working on now to get us to a point where we can do a landing like that in such a harsh environment?
Yeah, so figuring out propulsive landing is really the key part of it. But what people may not realize is that every time we bring Falcon back, we do something called an entry burn. So just before we hit the atmosphere, we light the engines to slow the rocket down. That happens high up where the air is very thin. And it just so happens that the conditions there are very similar to what a Mars landing burn would look like. So even though it takes months to get to Mars, and you can only do it every 2 years when the planets line up, we effectively get to practice Mars propulsive landing every time we bring Falcon back, including, hopefully, today.
Wow. And as you mentioned, every time we bring Falcon back, we learn something new. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we learn after the vehicle has returned and we're able to check out the vehicle?
Yeah, so Jessica actually mentioned this earlier, that I talked about how cost is really one benefit of reusability, but reliability is the other benefit.
So we should have just had a decision
point. Planning to send a rocket up through the rigors of launch and re-entry, but you don't get to see the rocket afterwards. And what we would like to do with reusability, what we've been able to do with Falcon 9, is see the rocket, inspect it, and because of that, we've been able to correlate our models pre-flight to what actually happens when you launch, re-enter, and land a rocket.
Right, instead of just guessing what happened to the vehicle after it's left.
Exactly.
That is amazing. Well, thank you again for joining us today for a second round. Hopefully the weather works with us today in a couple hours, actually. Let's throw it back to KSC with Marie.
All right, actually we have Lauren here. Now today's mission opens up the door to one day allowing the general public to be able to visit places like the moon and Mars. And as you've heard through several interviews today, reusability is a really, really important part of that. Imagine if every time you flew a plane from LA to New York, you threw it away at the end of the flight. That would mean essentially airline travel would be too expensive, costing hundreds of millions of dollars a flight, and almost no one would be able to fly. And so that's what SpaceX is trying to do here with reuse, allowing not just a handful of people to be able to go to space, but tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands of regular folks like you and me to be able to go to space. So, myself, when people like me have a chance to go, I know my dream is to land on Jupiter's moon, Europa. Scientists believe that there is a liquid water ocean underneath the ice and that it has the potential to be habitable. And so I'm super excited to get up close and personal to maybe some space fish. Leland, what about you? Where would you go?
Wow, that's a pretty interesting destination. I think I would like to go to Mars. We've studied Mars so much and looked at it, and I think maybe having a Martian base that is dog friendly, bring the pups along, because I think as we explore, we want to take our families, our cultures, our traditions, with us, and flying with Doug and Bob is cool, but having more people,
There's the dogs.
The puppers, taking the puppers to space. I mean, they're not.
They look ready to go.
They are ready to go. We just needed maybe some like SpaceX type suits for them, But it's that's what it's all about, exploration. Like the settlers going the west, they took everything with them, and they started these new communities and these new traditions. And I think that's what we do with space travel. We start new traditions and communities and bring everyone together as one family, one civilization.
Absolutely. We're here for it. And knowing that the opportunity to fly to space as a private citizen is really just right around the corner, we have a new poll question on Twitter for you. If given the opportunity to fly to the moon, now we're talking the moon, would you fly to the South Pole where no one has ever been, or would you go to the Apollo 11 landing site? So those are going to be some interesting
hard
answers.
Question.
And while there is not a ton of cargo on today's mission, Dragon is carrying 2 very special payloads, aside from Bob and Doug, of course. The first of those payloads is a series of custom art pieces entitled Humankind, by Los Angeles artist Tristan Eaton. These indestructible, double-sided paintings made from gold, brass, and aluminum celebrate how far humanity has come, as well as how far we still have to go. It includes a beautiful homage to the Saturn V rocket, as well as a nod to Bob and Doug's current ride to space. And you can find more images and information about these pieces on SpaceX's social channels. Next, in the spirit of inspiring the next generation of explorers, we wanted to celebrate the class of 2020, from kindergarten all the way to graduate school. So SpaceX and NASA invited students from around the world to submit their photo to fly on America's first human spaceflight in nearly a decade. Each graduate's photo was used to create a mosaic image of our beautiful planet Earth, which we printed, and it's now being flown aboard Bob and Doug's flight on the Crew Dragon spacecraft. We received nearly 100,000 photos. That's a ton, so thank you, and congratulations, graduates.
Yeah, I've got a couple of family members and friends who submitted their photos, so
wow.
they're super excited about seeing their faces go to space in that beautiful mosaic. That was really
great.
cool.
And again, that's what it's all about, you know, everyone coming together,
Apollo 11
their
landing
experiences,
site.
and bringing them forward to
shut the
space.
moon
And
landing.
you know, I think
Yes.
regular people.
There you go,
flying
that
to
decides
space,
it.
I mean, we're
So,
SpaceX is
Fan
gonna be
Ninja on
flying,
YouTube says
you know,
that he would prefer
non-government
to go to the
people,
Apollo 11
non-military people, but people that have a desire to
Apollo
explore
11 landing
and
site
do
to
new
shut the
things and
moon
traditions
landing hopes
off
conspiracy
planet, as we
theorists
say sometimes.
up once
Yeah,
and
I
for
mean,
all.
all
That
this
makes
time since we've
complete
had the
sense.
International Space Station, it's been government astronauts performing the research because you're the only
But
one
then
who's
they'd
been
probably
able to
say that
send,
you were
right?
part
But,
of the
I mean,
conspiracy.
Tourists, though, we've had people that paid their way
11
on
aren't.
Soyuz
Well,
rocket.
they'll
Sure,
think they
sure.
have an
But
answer.
it's really the billionaire boys club. You know, that's what Pharrell talks about with, you know, it costs so much money to go to
Right.
space, and I think that price point will come down as we make this more, you know, more amenable for everyday people.
Absolutely.
And then eventually being able to fly artists and musicians and poets, people who can tell the story of what they've seen out there in a way that really connects to the soul of people down on Earth, so they feel inspired to go.
Exactly.
Now, following today's mission, we will be one step closer to a future where we can all have
Just
that
a reminder,
opportunity
guys,
to gain
that
the
before the
orbital
launch,
perspective and
we will be
explore new worlds.
moving the
In
YouTube
just
stream
over an hour from
over
now,
to Space
Bob
Lab
and Doug will be the first
for the
people to
main
launch on an
show.
American vehicle in almost a decade. And for the SpaceX team, if I can try to speak for all of us, which is impossible, but I will say it has been an absolute honor to have the opportunity today to
got some
have the
venting.
stage to show the world what we've poured our hearts into over the years with our partners at NASA. And it's
Yeah,
just
that's a good way of
deeply
doing it.
humbling to know that the agency
I can see
and that
some
Bob and Doug
venting
have
just
entrusted
behind
us
the temporary
with
buildings.
this critical mission. The responsibility that's on our shoulders is huge, and we're just so grateful to be here
So
today.
does that mean they've started
Absolutely,
prop
and I
loading?
know that our NASA teams really share in that sentiment. We heard from just a handful of them
purging the
earlier
pipes
when
ready
Bob
for
and Doug
prop
were riding
loading,
out to
maybe?
the launch pad, but there's so many people that we're
Conspiracy.
probably
So
never going to
Space
see or
Labs
hear
on
from on the
Twitch has
public
said,
stage, but that
conspiracy
have
theorists
poured
are a
their hearts and
conspiracy.
souls, as you said, into
And Fan
this
Ninja
mission.
on YouTube
You know,
says,
all the
I'd
engineers
invite
up
one of
late
them with me
hours
so that they
checking,
can
double
believe it.
checking, triple checking everything
that'd be cool.
to troubleshoot and solve problems and get us to this point. So
You just need to load
it's just
a
really
Starship
awesome that
up
we've made it to this
with a load of
When you think
conspiracy
about legacy,
theorists.
Katherine
So,
Johnson, who helped get John Glenn to space.
let's go.
Her
There you
daughters
go.
are watching
You can
right
see it
now.
for yourself.
And that, again, that legacy going forward to the future of space travel is powerful.
Wow.
And we heard from two icons
so
of
there you go,
science
1 hour
and
and 20 minutes to
exploration on
launch.
Wednesday, and we couldn't resist sharing these shout outs with you one more time.
Wow, we're making history again. The NASA program. I'm there with you guys in spirit. Bob, Doug, good luck. I know you'll be
Oh
fine.
no, please, no boom.
I'll be watching and got everything crossed, arms, legs. I'm tied in a knot. Can't wait for you to get back safely.
And
This is the first time a U.S.
Bill Nye.
built rocket has taken people into space in 9 years. It's quite an accomplishment. So for us at the Planetary Society, more rockets means more exploration. More people in space means more exploration. More countries involved in the endeavor of spaceflight
More
means
exploration?
more exploration.
There we go.
This is how we know the cosmos and our place within it.
So you've got a
So
SpaceX bow
congratulations,
tie.
SpaceX. Here's wishing your team and the crew especially a
Was it-
safe
oh, no, it's
journey
Planetary
and the
Society,
joy
isn't
of
it?
discovery. Let's go.
In one
So
of the
great to hear
SNs.
from William Shatner and Bill Nye, two very recognizable faces following along on the mission.
So Spacelab has said that he would rather load all of them up in
and we
one of
want
the
to go over
SNs.
to Dan and Jesse and Hawthorne, where
And
we are
boom.
now just 1 hour and 18
Van
minutes
Ninja
from launch.
says,
Dan,
two
Jesse?
birds with one stone, flat Earth and moon
Hey,
landing.
thanks,
hopes.
Murray. Yeah, 1 hour, 18 minutes. I think we're tying ourselves in knots, just like Captain Kirk. We're really hoping the weather cooperates. In about 20 minutes or so, we might clear. So we're getting hopeful. We're getting our hopes up.
Yes, yes. Very excited. Again, we're T-minus 1 hour and
Pressure
18
test to fail,
minutes
yeah?
from launch, and the anticipation is real over here. Since arriving at the spacecraft, Bob and Doug were helped by our closeout engineers to get into their seats, attach their suits to special umbilicals that provide breathing air, pressurized nitrox, and a communications link to Dragon systems. They conducted leak checks, which were successful, and communications checks with the core here in Hawthorne, which is the person who will speak to them directly throughout the mission, as well as the launch director in Florida. This is where they are checking their comm path through both ground stations and the tracking and data relay satellites that we'll use to talk to the crew the entire way to the station.
And after all of those suit leak checks were successful, the closeout team was able to get out of the Dragon capsule and seal up that hatch, which also got its own leak check and was confirmed successful. At this point, the closeout team is out of the pad. They're away from the BDA, the blast danger area, and weather operators are about to kick off their final checks on wind speeds at the pad, which are going to be used during the final go, no go for launch. So we're all keeping eyes on the weather right now. Before we get to that final go, no go, all the various teams at both NASA and SpaceX are going to do internal go polls, just making sure conditions are right with Falcon 9, the Dragon, the crew, the range, and the space station before the final go is given. So let's check back in with the man over in Houston, Gary, for a status on the team supporting the space station for their readiness for launch.
When it failed, just say, "Oh no, why?
Thanks,
How
Dan.
do these things
Here
happen
in
to
Mission
you?"
Control Houston remains go for launch. We're also very hopeful about that weather. All systems on
I
board
think
the
that
station
could
that are
fuel further
required to be healthy for
conspiracy
this
theories,
mission
you know.
are continuing to look
Space
good.
Lab.
Chris Cassidy is wrapping up his workday, and we'll be watching Bob and Doug launch here in just under an hour. So station power and communication systems are normal. Computers and networks used for monitoring Dragon's approach have been checked out, and the cabins and the station cabin's atmosphere and pressure are as expected and ready to welcome 2 new crew members aboard. Mission Control will be closely monitoring Bob and Doug's flight and checking off milestones for most of the flight, and this very same team will be coming back tomorrow to be ready when Dragon gets in range of the International Space Station and we begin integrated operations and prepare for Dragon's docking. So I'll send it back. International Space Station team here is ready for launch. Go Falcon 9, go Dragon, and Godspeed to Bob and Doug.
Looking good.
All right, thanks, Gary. If you are just now joining us, you picked a really good time. We're just a little over an hour.
It's looking a lot clearer
Welcome
out
to
there
our
again.
coverage for the mission known as Demonstration Mission 2 or Demo 2.
I think we could get a
Liftoff
launch, you know.
time still holding for 3:22 p.m. Eastern. Tracking no issues
Just
with
looking at the
Falcon
weather
9 or
purely
Dragon.
from obviously
Everything
the,
good with the range so far. We're just
outside
really
view.
keeping an eye on that weather. Over the last 3 hours, our crew members, Doug Hurley and Bob Bankin, donned their SpaceX suits in the historic crew quarters suit-up room. After that, they walked out of crew quarters, just as every astronaut to fly from space from this port has done since Apollo 7. And then they were transported
sunny,
over to the
it's
pad, where the
clouds,
crew members
but,
entered
you know,
the
they're
SpaceX Crew Dragon
cleared a lot.
spacecraft that we're looking in live.
Today is a historic launch. It will be the first time a commercially built spacecraft will launch people into orbit, and the first time the U.S. has sent people to the space station from American soil since 2011 with the retirement of the Space Shuttle program. Over the next hour, we will conduct a series of polls to get ready for launch, have Bob and Doug arm the launch escape system, and begin fueling Falcon 9.
So they can
Launch
take
is
their
set for
Godspeed and
3:22 p.m. Eastern. This will include a 12-minute flight to orbit
Wow.
and then a 19-hour flight to dock with the International Space Station tomorrow morning.
Today's mission is the culmination of years of work between teams at SpaceX and NASA. Demo 2 is going to be an end-to-end flight test starting with this launch today, going on to dock with the space station tomorrow, and then splashing down at the end of their mission. And this is going to be the final test for NASA to certify SpaceX for regular crew flights to the space station.
Yeah, good luck is a better thing.
We've been hearing a little bit from the crew on board Dragon, which you can see on your right screen. They are currently strapped into their seats and already through communications and leak checks. They're able to follow all the milestones still ahead on those display panels just above them, getting insight into all Dragon and Falcon 9 systems as we proceed towards launch. So at T-minus 1 hour and 13 minutes, let's check in with John I for a status update on the vehicles. What's the update, John?
John Innsbrucker.
Well, not much to add to what Dan and Jesse just brought up. We've had a smooth countdown this afternoon. SpaceX team is working no issues as the pace begins to pick up here in the last 70 minutes. On Falcon 9, we did get the team on console. Earlier, you heard the comm checks between the responsible engineers and the crew. The engineers will be making calls on ascent for the crew's benefit, so they want to make sure that they could hear them before we go. The propulsion checkouts of the first and second stages are beginning right now. We're watching them begin to go through the process, opening valves. That check will go for about another 10 minutes, and that'll be our last one until propellant loading. Now the team will assess readiness for launch with a final go-no-go poll at T-minus 45 minutes, and that'll be followed by propellant loading starting at T-minus 35 minutes. Now earlier today, Dragon operators also performed a series of checkouts of Dragon's flight systems. The spacecraft is also currently go for launch. Our NASA crew, astronauts Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken, are currently inside Dragon. The hatch is closed. The SpaceX ground crew has left the tower. The next major event for Dragon is retract of the crew access arm that you can see currently alongside the capsule. That'll happen somewhere between T-minus 45 and T-minus 42 minutes. Now the range is currently clear for launch from historic Pad 39A. The worldwide network of ground stations and the tracking and data relay satellites are ready to support Dragon as it heads into orbit. The weather, that's the one concern. We will get a weather brief at T-minus 1 hour, so just under 12 minutes from now.
Yeah.
Currently, the ground and upper altitude winds are go, so that's one thing that we can check as green. At the current time, we did have some rain earlier that appears to have let up. But we are red on conditions for both the electric field at surface levels, lightning, and cumulus clouds. There is an expectation that a forecast that will be coming up at about T-minus 1 hour also may give us clearance of those conditions. So everything is focusing
now. So it's all down to the electrical charge in the atmosphere and on the ground.
Also, we should hope to hear about the final check on the ascent corridor. That's the weather along the Atlantic seaboard in case Dragon had to abort on the way to space. The conditions there have been marginal, but the expectation that it would be good for launch. But we will get all of that coming up here very shortly prior to entering propellant load. Now today we are aiming for a launch at 3:22:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, or 19 hours, 22 minutes, 45 seconds Universal Time. Once we begin loading propellant, there's no opportunity to change T0.
Here.
So once propellant is loading, we're committed, and we'll get one chance at it today. But currently at T-minus 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 30 seconds, everything except the weather is go for launch.
That was the same as the other day.
Thanks, John, for that detailed update. We've got an extensive history now of flying Falcon 9 from the Florida coast, and just
the weather itself is great. Unfortunately, it's the atmospheric electrical charge, or field mills as they call it.
Was to demonstrate Dragon's capability to safely and reliably fly to and from the
Where
international
could you donate?
space.
Where to, Fan Ninja? Where do you want to donate to?
Paved the way for today's mission to where we are today. And right now we're getting ready to fly U.S. astronauts from
End of
U.S.
the
soil for the first
day,
time since
there's only a risk of
2011.
literally everything, but let's not worry about it.
Years of operational experience, or what we refer to as flight heritage.
End of the day,
As I mentioned earlier, SpaceX
they
has
are requiring such a vast area to be just spot on. It's very, it must be very hard to find a good window.
Not only have we conducted
because you think you're looking
of
for
hours of testing, we've also enhanced and added a number of safety
in
features
flight,
to Dragon.
high
What
altitude.
was learned with the cargo Dragon was leveraged in the design of this new vehicle. It's fully
downrange
autonomous, which means it can basically
for
fly
abort,
itself, but also features that
calm
full
seas,
manual override capability
atmospheric
just in
electrical
case of
charge,
emergency.
lightning,
Many of
cumulus
the other
clouds.
enhancements help towards
There's
SpaceX's
just
goal of
loads.
reusability and less refurbishment time between missions.
How
So
they ever
let's
get
take
a launch
closer
off
look
with
at
all
these
those parameters is beyond me.
Standing at almost 27 feet tall, from the very bottom of the trunk to the very top of the nose cone, Crew Dragon's comprised of two main elements. You have the capsule, which is designed to hold crew and pressurized cargo, and then you have the trunk, which holds unpressurized cargo as well as having a solar array and radiator.
And the nose cone at the top of the capsule protects the docking system as well as the guidance navigation control system, or what we call GNC.
But yeah, I think
the
they
nose
should
cone
be
opens for docking
a
and
bit
remains
more open to
attached
some of
the
those
Crew
things
Dragon
being
spacecraft,
outside
and
of
that's unlike the previous
what they
version
would
of
normally
Dragon,
like.
and that helps towards our reusability efforts.
Completely opposite the nose cone is that trunk. It has attachment points for Falcon 9, the Dragon capsule, and it can hold cargo. On the very outside of the trunk, one half of it contains a radiator that rejects heat from the active thermal control system into space. That's the white part, and that uses SpaceX's new Pico tiling technology. The other half contains the solar cells used to charge the spacecraft's batteries.
And though we only have 2 astronauts on board today, the spacecraft is actually designed to accommodate up to 7 crew members with modular seats that can be removed and replaced by additional cargo. The seats are made of carbon fiber and are custom sized.
Oh, it's fine. There's only a tropical storm going on.
The control panel
Yeah, unfortunately, Florida is a little bit susceptible to that sort of stuff.
Touchscreen displays that gives the crew insight into Dragon and even the ability to operate the vehicle and fly it manually.
And finally, our Super Draco launch escape system is a key safety feature of Crew Dragon, giving the crew the ability to safely escape from the time of launch all the way to orbit.
And as we look to the future beyond this test flight later this year, the first operational crewed mission for NASA will take place. NASA astronauts Mike Hopkins.
Try to review your launch commit criteria and indicate readiness at the appropriate time. Step 5469 for propellant load and launch.
Looks like we're ready for propellant launch.
Good sign. That was the launch director. We're getting ready to pull the teams as we move towards that go-no-go for propellant loading, which happens
I'll get you another link.
45 minutes before launch. But back to our Crew 1 mission, NASA astronauts Mike Hopkins, Victor Glover, and Shanna Walker, and Suichi Noguchi of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA, were chosen to support this mission. Again, it's called Crew 1.
But today, Doug Hurley is the spacecraft commander for this mission. He previously flew on 2 space shuttle missions as the pilot on STS-127 and STS-135, which was the final space shuttle flight. Here's a closer look at Doug Hurley.
Try that one.
Very excited. Yeah, very excited.
Feel ready? Feel pumped?
Oh yeah, I think we're ready. I think we're certainly ready.
Joining the SpaceX DM-2 test. He is a Marine Corps colonel and test pilot. He was selected as an astronaut in 2000. He piloted Space Shuttle Endeavour and Atlantis for STS-135, the final space
I'll have a look at that as well.
Introducing NASA astronaut Doug Hurley.
It's a life-changing process in so many ways to fly into space. It's just overwhelming in some respects. Just the sensations, the rumbling, the shaking, the acceleration.
Thanks for that. That's helpful.
My name is Doug Hurley, and I'm the spacecraft commander for the DM-2 mission to the International Space Station.
So that's the sort of feedback I like, Fan Ninja. That's really helpful.
And so there's a myriad of objectives we want to
Cool, that should now be fixed on Twitch as well.
What would work on orbit, what might not work on orbit, what would definitely work, to be able to just have the entire integrated team that's going to support us getting to and from space station. It was really neat being part of it. You know, we are the lucky ones that get to fly it, but we certainly not for 1 second take for granted the amount of effort that so many other people had to put into
Thank you very much,
to
man.
make it successful.
For Doug personally, he's worked so hard, I mean, through his entire life, to get to where we are right now. As a test pilot, this would be the dream, to fly a new vehicle. So it makes me so happy to see that he gets to be part of this mission, the spacecraft commander. I'm just glad to see his hard work and his dreams come true for that.
It's been a long road in a lot of ways for not only us, but certainly for all the folks that work in the Commercial Crew Program, as well as SpaceX in our case, just working to get to this point.
We're a little over 1 hour, 3.5 minutes away from launch. Now let's learn a little bit more about the man sitting next to Doug Hurley inside Dragon, NASA astronaut Bob Behnken.
My career at NASA has kind of spanned a couple of decades at this point. I arrived with the class of 2000, went through the training program, primarily focused on the space shuttle and the International Space Station, learning those systems. Having launched a couple times on vehicles, you know, the second time was definitely different than the first time. You can feel a little bit guilty of, hey, should I study one more thing, or is there one more piece of information I should get? Am I really prepared or not? So that's definitely different between where I was on my first flight and where I'm at right now.
For me personally, as a spouse, watching everything that Bob has put into this over the last 5 years, the dedication that he's shown, the perseverance is
Awesome.
Pretty special. For both of us, though, the way our minds work, it won't be until sort of the mission is complete that you have really a chance to savor it and celebrate it. This is a huge accomplishment for an Air Force flight test
Awesome.
engineer
We are
to
looking
be
good, guys.
part of the demonstration mission of a brand new vehicle. It's going to be amazing.
So an hour and
Without
2 minutes
a
away
partner
from
that
launch.
has that same appreciation, I think it can be challenging for some folks. There's a lot of work and a lot of time that takes away from family that you know, that my spouse appreciates, and I love her for that. On a deeply personal level, I'm really excited that my son is going to get a chance to see me launch into space. Being an astronaut has been a little bit of an abstraction thing for him because he's seen me do it in old videos, but he hasn't seen me do it for real. And so I'm excited for him to see this launch. Really, my role on the DM-2 mission is to make sure that we get
it looks
this
like it only
vehicle,
accepts PayPal.
tested and evaluated so that we can move on to more operational missions at the
Thanks for the
International
follow
Space
on Twitch as well.
We've got a lot of objectives on board the vehicle that we need to accomplish to really make sure that it's good to go. We'll make sure all those systems are working during the test flight so that the
Just
future
bear in mind that the
we'll have
YouTube
them
stream will be
available even
ending
if they don't land
and going
utilized.
over to Space Lab as soon as that
Through
stream
years
is
of
up
the
and running.
NASA team, helping to share that experience and teaching them the lessons that we've learned by going through this. Now there's another capability in the U.S. besides
But
NASA
we will be
to operate
staying
something
on
of this magnitude.
my channel with Twitch.
I want to thank the entire Commercial Crew Program team that's worked together to get to this point where we've got vehicles in the launch pad ready to head to the International Space Station.
If we look even further into the not-so-distant future, flying on a mission to space will be an option for more people as SpaceX plans to also fly private astronauts on board Dragon. Earlier this year, SpaceX signed an agreement with the space tourism company Space Adventures to fly up to 4 passengers on an orbital trip aboard Dragon as early as next year. And of course, it's NASA that is making private astronaut missions to the space station a possibility. We are looking forward to these missions, and we hope that you guys are all too.
All right, we are just 20 seconds away from T-minus 1 hour.
There we go.
This is going to be a really big moment that everyone's going to want to listen to. We're expecting a weather
T-minus
update.
1 hour.
Obviously hoping that the weather is improving. And so we should find out in the next 10 seconds or so. So we're going to stand by for a moment and wait for the Corps to give Bob and Doug a call. And then we'll all hear
Dragon,
the latest.
SpaceX, we're at T-minus 1 hour.
Could someone
You are
please
go for
do
section
me a
6
favour
when ready, report go for
and
launch.
just put something in Twitch chat?
We'll put it
I
where-
had to reload the page and nothing's on there, so I'd like to just to make sure it's working. It's okay.
And that right there was a call for the crew to refer to some of their procedures. They do some final checks. You can see them checking harnesses, checking helmets.
It's looking good
just
so
making
far,
sure
guys.
that they're
We're
strapped
now
in and ready to
hour
go.
to
And once they're done with that,
launch.
the crew will report their readiness for launch.
Cool. So we will be switching over to Space Lab on YouTube within half an hour.
SpaceX Dragon in 6.4. Bob and I are go for launch.
Copy. Go for launch.
Again, we will be
Next
staying
up will
live
be
on
Twitch.
Twitch.
At T-45.
Dragon copies.
All right, the crew is go for launch. So we are inside of 1 hour, still waiting for the weather update. But I mean, this day is one for the history books. We're returning crewed launches to station from American soil on American rockets. It's been almost 9 long years since we retired the space shuttle program. I remember that day. I'm going to remember this day. It's been a long road to get here, countless hours by thousands of dedicated professionals from NASA and SpaceX.
It's been an exciting week, but this last final hour is just so exciting right now. Today's mission will be Crew Dragon's second test flight and its first test with humans on board. It's been an awesome countdown so far. Weather, we're still waiting for that update, so it's still a watch item, but the crew is go for launch, so at T-minus 45 minutes, hopefully we'll get an update on that weather.
Viewer counter is broken.
We've had a really clean countdown so far. It started with suit up just over 3 hours ago. The SpaceX team.
At no point has it said that I've had any viewers on the dashboard for a stream, but I've actually got to right now
they got to the
on
actual
there,
walkout, and all
or
of
had
that
to.
done in that operations and checkout facility. The crew walkout was where Bob and Doug gave their final goodbyes to friends and family gathered outside the operations and checkout building before they began that roughly 20-minute ride to Pad 39A.
Hold on.
Really touching
Getting deja vu here.
saying goodbye to their
Ooh,
family.
I've got a
both
timer
their-
at the bottom.
with their wives and sons right in front of them.
Yeah, a very touching moment.
It's incredible to be able to watch these moments.
And as they got into their Teslas, we got to watch them ride all the way to the pad, and we got some great footage there.
Yeah.
And as you can see on your screen, this is some playback from earlier of
After
them
all but NASA
getting
are allowed
into
to
those
call it a
Teslas,
historic
about to make
moment.
that drive down to the pad.
Oh, finally they tell us it was recorded earlier.
And once they got to the pad, they did take a minute to take in the sights, and they headed up the fixed service structure to begin the process called crew ingress, where Bob and Doug entered. And there you can see on your screen as they're coming through the crew access arm, entering the white room right before they are able to ingress into the vehicle there.
Again, recorded earlier.
Again, this was from earlier.
Yeah, this all from earlier, and as we said, that
So for those of you unsure of
place
how
on
long
the
we've got
planet where they're
left
standing
before
they climb into Dragon for
the
ride
window,
uphill,
instantaneous window
SpaceX
opens,
carrying over a
there's now a
tradition that
timer.
NASA had where that was traditionally
that
the
way,
room from
just to my
Gemini, Apollo, and
right
the
on
space shuttle,
screen.
that last place. About 30 minutes ago, we're back with some live video here. The team was able to close Dragon's hatch.
Deja
Bob and
vu.
Doug
I've
safe
been into
inside.
deja
So
vu.
we
I've
are
just been
under
in
an
this
hour
time
ago.
before.
Things are going
Higher
to
on
pick
the
up as
street.
we get close to that go-no-go
And I
to
know it's
begin
my place
propellant
to go
loading,
calling
and then arming
you
the
and
launch
search this
escape
mystery
system.
standing on my feet.
The
It's so
crew
hard
pull
when
for
I try
readiness
to...
was completed at
be
T-minus
more,
60
yeah.
minutes,
What?
and the Dragon pull for prop load is coming up here in just about 30 seconds at
To be
T-minus
me.
55 minutes. And then following
Right,
that will
okay.
be T-minus 45 minutes will be the internal mission control Hawthorne pull, and then the launch director's pull for propellant loading. When we get to about T-minus 40 minutes, the crew access arm will retract, and Bob and Doug will get the call to close their visors and arm the launch escape system. This is the automated system in place that can fire the 8 Super Draco thrusters on Dragon to quickly separate the crew from the rocket, either on the pad or during the flight on the ride uphill.
And then once we reach
Sorry, I
T-minus
messed up the
35
copy.
minutes, propellant loading for the Falcon 9
That's the
will
same thing,
begin.
isn't it?
We got there on Wednesday. We got all the way down to about 17 minutes before launch before we had to cancel because of weather. But we're still
Looks the same.
We're optimistic right now. Conditions have been improving, and so we're looking to press ahead once again into loading fuel onto that Falcon 9 rocket. Throughout the countdown, we've been getting some incredible views of the astronauts inside Dragon, just making all of their final preparations, some close-up views of their suits and on the displays as they just are strapped in and ready for launch. The teams often describe the suits as an extension of that Dragon spacecraft. You can always think of it as a mini spacecraft inside of a spacecraft. It's got all of the life support, everything that they need, just like the capsule
This is
itself.
on countdown one. Technical poll is complete. No constraints to proceed into launch escape system arming and propellant load.
Oh, we're getting propellant load ready.
And there's that call out that the crew is
Arming
ready.
the launch
They
escape
are ready
system.
to load prop onto Dragon.
So you'll see the
we
arm
are
go
pushing
back
forward
even further now.
towards T0. And while those suits do look great, they are also engineered to connect directly into Dragon's seats to provide communications, cooling, and the ability to pressurize if necessary.
All right, well, we did get the call out that the technical teams on the ground are ready for launch escape arming and propellant loading. Again, things starting to pick up, things really starting to feel real. Let's jump down real quick to the team at Kennedy. See if you guys are just as excited. I can't sit still right now. It's starting to feel real.
Yeah, it's
Nice
hard to sit
transition
still in
there.
here, right, Leland?
I like Stinger.
That's rocket fuel going through my veins still.
I know. It's
Burger
so
King
awesome when we see them
lettuce
sitting there
number
in their
15.
suits. We're less than an hour away
What?
now.
The last thing
So
you want
far,
anyway.
things look like we might make it. We might make it. So I want to ask you what it was like the first time you put on a spacesuit when you knew you were going to
This
space.
is lettuce you eat at Burger King in Italy.
February of
Choose
2008,
on,
we
but
were
that's
in the
this
ONC
one.
building getting the pumpkin suits on. A little bit different than the SpaceX fly SpaceX suits. But it was kind of
So,
surreal, you know,
very
and to
good.
think
Boy,
that all
at least
it
I
took
hope
10
he's
years
very
of
good.
training to fly in space.
God.
It took me 10
That-
years from when I got in
that's
the Corps in
quite the lot.
1998 to flying in February of 2008. So it was a long road to get there, but it was so worth it and so sweet. And you know, learning how to use the green apple, the connections for oxygen, for cooling, much different than
Right,
many
okay.
suits that we have here with SpaceX, and so it's a lot more complicated.
That's a lot of
to go
a
through
lot of
that whole
words.
series of things that you have to do to make sure you're safe in the suit, but we've evolved, we're ready, and they look so
I
cool
haven't
and
been
calm and collected.
honestly. I haven't been
their
to a
suits and
fast
their
food
vehicle, they're focusing
place
and getting
since
ready
they
to fly in
reopened.
space.
And there's so much excitement
but I've
around
got a
the
Burger
center. I
King
know,
about
Leland,
5
you've been
minutes
getting
from
some
here.
messages. You got another
And
message from another astronaut.
Yeah, Sunny Williams.
It's
okay,
been
so Sunny,
queued
Lauren,
Kind of the best.
down the road
Sunny is
she's a
awesome.
for a
commercial
drive-through.
She was one of the original cadre. She was one of the original 4 who trained with Bob and Doug from the beginning of the commercial crew program.
And she's one of my classmates. Look at her there. What is she
There
wearing?
she is. Hey,
The
Sunny.
meatball.
I forgive you.
That's not a meatball.
No, she had the worm one on Wednesday, so she wore the meatball today. So
She's
it's
the
a,
best.
But now she can wear the worm ball, I guess.
Yes.
The worm ball, yeah, she can
Yeah,
mix it
worm
up. But
ball
yeah,
for-
Sunny's
worm
awesome.
ball
She's
for the
training
win.
to fly on the Boeing Starliner in the not too distant future. So really glad she's watching and showing some love. So thanks a lot, Sunny, for sending that note. And
So,
again, we're looking at a live view
got
of
my
the Crew Dragon on top of a Falcon 9 rocket. You can see
Fishing
the
with me
access arm to the
from
right
the
of your
Teespring
screen.
store.
That's the hallway
Love
that
it.
Bob and
It's
Doug
really,
walked down
really
to
good.
get into the White Room, which was the last place we saw them standing up before they
And
climbed
it's space
inside
themed,
Dragon.
which
And
is
again, a wider shot there,
great
Launch
win.
Complex 39A, where we are inside of an hour from liftoff, and I think we're just a couple minutes away
Meatball.
from the
Cringe.
poll we're going to hear before they
So,
start the countdown.
Space Lab, you need to look for the worm ball. It's like the meatball, but with
Again, a
the
two-stage
worm
rocket
instead
there.
of the
And gosh,
normal
guys, the
NASA
weather
logo,
looks
Times New
not that
Roman.
bad. I mean, obviously that is not an official forecast.
50
but
minutes and
it
22
doesn't look
seconds.
quite as bad as it did Wednesday.
getting-
We've got
we're
a
get- we're
little
getting
bit
there.
better odds. So there's the countdown clock. We're
Yeah, gotta love a teaspoon plug. I think I'm the only one to buy anything off there.
We're going to
Yeah,
pause to listen to that comm.
yeah. I'm not going to comment. I don't like leggings at the best of times, to be honest. What are we waiting for? Oh, look at that web. It looks good. Saying the issues are not what
If you're
we
just
fancy.
joining us, we're less than 50 minutes from the scheduled liftoff of the
Just getting
Falcon
real
9
now.
rocket carrying Crew Dragon. And if we start to hear any kind of update on weather or polling, we will pause to listen in for that. But if things go as scheduled, we should be hearing the launch director verify go for propellant load at about T-minus
T-minus
45 minutes.
Okay.
So we're going to send it over to Hawthorne to carry the ball. John Innsbrucker or Jesse, are you there?
This weather is go at this time.
Weather is go.
Dragon copies, go weather.
Yeah, we didn't get that last time.
And there you heard that call out. So far, we have good weather. We are go for launch today. This is getting really exciting. I don't know about you,
Yes,
Dan.
I can
My
send
heart
you a
is beating pretty
Teespring
fast
link.
right now.
Yeah, we've been waiting for those words since Wednesday.
Oh,
Bear with me.
We
I just need to
we
find
did hear
it
a call to
again.
the crew, just in case you missed it, that they were only tracking one final weather constraint. It was the cumulus cloud rule. They were expecting it to clear up within 10 minutes, and it's cleared up now. So we are currently go on weather.
Yes, and it's been pretty incredible to be so close to
Launch it now
and the
before it changes
relativity
its
up to
mind.
this point has been pretty incredible as well.
It has been. It's been a partnership between NASA and SpaceX. We've been working together since SpaceX started flying cargo to the International Space Station, now getting ready to launch crew. And we've been really fortunate to work with not only a lot of
Are
international
you going live now,
partners on the
Space Lab? Let me
International
know.
Space Station, but a lot of
And as a
really great
reminder, here in
companies.
the control room, we'll be closing doors here once we start with propellant load. Any last-minute bio breaks, please go ahead and accomplish those in the next few minutes.
Tell you what I'm going to do for you.
The launch director just getting the teams ready. We'll be coming up on that propellant
Fan
loading
Ninja.
again. That
If you
starts
do
in about
want to
35
order
minutes
on the
prior to
Teespring,
liftoff, so in about 12 minutes from now.
I shall
There's going to be a go no go coming up really soon.
create
So let's
a
go over to our
one-off.
man John I for the latest. John.
It's T-minus 47 minutes, 24 seconds. We're continuing to count down. As you just heard, the launch director and launch team are preparing for the readiness for launch poll. The launch director is currently checking with Dragon mission director, NASA launch manager for their readiness. And actually, it sounds like everybody is good there. The launch director will then ask the team, he'll tell them the poll is open, and the 13
It's
members
gonna
of the
expire
SpaceX launch team will be electrically
tomorrow.
polled for their go to load propellant, as well as continue all the way to launch.
So, if you do go to
Now, we
order
will hear
Fan
that
Ninja,
poll results and a briefing from the
type
launch
in
director
this
in
code,
about T-minus 45 minutes. The good news right now is that the weather is go.
and
All
you'll
the
get
conditions
10%
that were
off.
read shortly a while
store.
ago at T-minus 1 hour have cleared. Where, as the weather forecaster said, cautiously optimistic. Currently,
Countdown.
the
Poll
probability.
is complete. We're go for propellant load.
Well, we got an early call out there.
And launch
from-
control clear to retract the access arm on time.
There we go.
After that, arming access arm retract at T-minus 45 minutes.
1 minute and 10 seconds for retract.
Got an early
Weather
call
is
from
green
SpaceX Launch
currently.
Director Mike Taylor that the poll is go. You also heard the direction T-minus 45 minutes to prepare for retract of the crew arm. As we hear more discussion,
Space
we'll
Lab,
stop
when you
and
do
let
set
listen
up your
in, but
stream
right
and get
now,
it going,
weather for liftoff, ground level
send me
winds
the
are
link
good,
and I'll put it in
10 to
chat
15
on
miles an
YouTube.
hour, well within limits. Upper altitude balloons show that conditions are acceptable. The red weather conditions have cleared up, the last one being cumulus clouds.
This chair at
And
least.
the probability of violation is set at 30% right now, so that's 70% chance of good weather. We're continuing to watch. There is about a less than 10% chance of lightning. We're also watching the abort corridor off of the Atlantic coast. In case, for example, at stage separation, Dragon had to abort into the ocean. The conditions there are acceptable. There has not been lightning lately. The weather, winds are good, light rain.
Okay,
It
so I'm
is
going to
go,
wait for the
but
next
NASA is
milestone.
gonna
I'm just going to
continue
pop
to
away
watch
for a
those
second.
conditions.
Be back.
T-minus 45 minutes and counting. Reminder on hold and launch escape protocol. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief the CE or LD, and they will approve aborting launch auto-sequence and proceed to launch abort. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold on the countdown net. Launch control will immediately abort the launch auto-sequence and proceed to the launch abort auto-sequence. Operators shall also advise launch director whether structural break
There we go,
fire
arms
is
retracting.
imminent or occurring per Dragon manual escape flight rules.
Ah, yeah, the ice cream is
On fire
done.
alarm instructions. In the event
When I
of a
go
fire alarm,
in a
key
second,
operators previously briefed
I
will
should-
remain at their post while the alarm is evaluated. In the event that personal safety is threatened, evacuate to the south-facing emergency exit, which leads directly outside. At this time, weather is go for launch.
Awesome. So the ice cream is doing good. I'll go and grab a photo of that when I just go and check on it.
Crew access
I'll put them in the food bit like I did before.
SpaceX launch director has given the final brief to the crew. And we will be beginning propellant loading at T-minus 35 minutes.
Give me 1 minute, Space Lab, and I'll be there.
Falcon 9 ready to get into propellant loading. Dragon, crew, getting configured, set up. The arm is pulling away. The range is go for launch. They continue to monitor the air and the sea space. Everything looks good. And we finally have gotten green across the board on the weather conditions, but we can't take a deep breath quite yet. We're going to have to watch the weather all the way down to T0, both here at Kennedy Space Center and out in the Atlantic in the abort zones. Now, earlier we saw many of you following the launch from the United States on our hotspot map. Now that we're inside an hour, we're seeing large numbers of folks logging on, tuning in from coast to coast and around the world. So we'd like to know, is this your first time watching a launch live, not counting Wednesday? And if not, how many have you seen before? Tell us using the hashtag LaunchAmerica from your favorite social media platform. And with that, at T-minus 42 minutes, 50 seconds, conditions are go, and we are counting down for an on-time launch. Let's send it back over to Kennedy Space Center as the action begins to pick up on the pad.
Dragon, SpaceX, you are go for Section 7, close visors, and arm launch escape system.
We will put Section 7 in work, visors come in close.
All right, the countdown clock is continuing to tick. My heart is continuing to beat 5 million beats a second.
Okay, and I am back, and Space Lab is about to start his stream. So if you are watching on YouTube,
and as you just
I would say go over to that now,
the launch escape system,
and I will put a link in the description
last
or in the chat
prior to liftoff,
once he has
other than nominal Falcon operations.
Sent me the link.
So just a minute ago, we saw the crew access arm retract, and obviously we just heard on the comms Bob and Doug getting ready to arm the launch escape system, and so that is something that protects them all the way to orbit. So when fueling starts at about T-minus 35 minutes, so just over 6 minutes from now, they will have the capability to abort, to separate from Falcon 9 either on the pad or even after liftoff. That's a critical safety capability. And we are going to go over to Hawthorne now to take us through these next minutes. Jesse?
Section, switch in to nitrogen, switch in to nitrogen.
We did hear that call out that they are arming the launch escape system, so very exciting. SpaceX has designed Crew Dragon and Falcon 9 to be the safest launch system ever flown. So we brought back Nick Picone, SpaceX's Nick Picone, to talk more about this again. Thanks for coming back and joining us today, Nick.
Hey, Jesse. Happy to be here. Still monitoring the launch here with our recovery and ground operations teams.
Awesome. And Nick was our mission manager for our in-flight abort test earlier this year and now works on the Starlink team. Nick, on Wednesday, you talked about the launch escape system. Could you just give us a brief summary today for those that are joining today?
Sure. So the launch escape system, again, is our ultimate safety feature to keep Bob and Doug safe in the event of a major Falcon anomaly on the pad. The system is designed to automatically fire if either vehicle detects a dangerous condition developing. And if that happens, Dragon will use its 8 Super Draco engines to push the capsule off and away to a safe distance away from this Falcon. This capability is absolutely critical. It's what keeps the crew safe.
Got that sound,
and we're
clicking.
now active and armed on the pad with it protecting the crew.
And as you mentioned, the launch escape system allows the Dragon to separate and get away from the vehicle. I believe it goes into the ocean. What happens after it lands?
Your streams take a while to
ocean?
show on your YouTube, Space Lab.
Correct. So for most of our failure modes, the successful end state is Dragon deploying parachutes, splashing down safely in the ocean. But since a launch escape can happen while the vehicle's on the pad or anywhere in flight up through orbit, it could be splashing down right off the coast of Cape Canaveral. It could be splashing down thousands of miles away in the North Atlantic. If that happens, to make sure we can get to Bob and Doug as quickly as possible, the Space Force's 45th Space Wing, Task Force 45, has pararescue teams staged and ready all around the world, ready to drop in and rescue Bob and Doug as soon as possible.
Right.
And you mentioned that the launch escape system will keep them safe all the way up to orbit. What other options are there after Dragon is in orbit?
Sure. So if for any reason we're unable to dock to the International Space Station, we have several pre-planned return trajectories, which will bring the capsule down to a splashdown point close.
Keep them safe all the way up to orbit. What other options are there after
To shore,
I can
where
hear
NASA and
your
SpaceX recovery forces will
sound,
be
by
waiting
the
to
way.
recover them. It'll look like an otherwise totally normal recovery operation, except for the early engine mission. This operation is something we're doing with one of two identical crew recovery ships. We do that because the landing sites, we want to maintain as much flexibility as possible. There could be changing weather conditions
Space
that
Lab,
bring
I can
down
hear
one site
your
and leave the
sound.
other one up. So we have those two identical ships, one in the Atlantic, one in the Gulf of Mexico. And our space
just checking
operations
your
team
stream
coordinates the
works.
spacecraft to go to whichever site is the safest option for the crew at that time.
And with the vehicle, in almost any scenario, it sounds like the vehicle will land into the ocean. And it may look like a gentle landing into the ocean, but it's a pretty dynamic event happening. And you mentioned there are teams that are ready to go and rescue the vehicle and the astronauts on board. How do you prepare for something like that, especially with so many different scenarios that could happen?
Okay.
Sure, so we're
Are
lucky.
you there? There we go.
Yeah, sorry, I muted you earlier. I could hear two lots.
Okay, so I'm going to start it probably, might as well do it now.
Yeah, okay, so
Although I need to ping everyone and stuff, so I'm not going to do the intro just yet.
no, that's fine. As soon as I see it up on YouTube, I shall put a link in the chat on YouTube on mine and then my stream.
Oh, and the video signed me out again.
Brilliant.
These new ships have complete medical facilities.
This could actually happen, you know.
Yeah, it's looking good so far, guys.
To make sure they're robust and ready for anything we encounter offshore. We've also done tons of training exercises with SpaceX team, the NASA team, and the rescue forces I mentioned earlier, practicing capsule recovery,
So I've got everything ready to switch over.
Water, as well as those helicopter evacuations, taking off and landing from the pad many times, so that we make sure the team is ready to do that. They're all staged and ready. They feel ready to support, and will be ready to call on us if anything goes wrong today.
Awesome. It sounds like Bob and Doug are in some really good hands and will be safe no matter what occurs on the vehicle. So thank you, Nick, for joining us again for
It's because I updated the drivers the other day.
I hope you're just as excited
Right,
as we
there we
are
go.
for
Let's
launch
try
coming
now,
up
see if
here
I can
very,
start
very
now.
shortly now.
There we go.
So we're going to send it over to
I'll
KSC
refresh
to
and see
Lauren.
what we get.
Thank you, Jesse. So as you just heard, fueling is
So your
about
streams
to
don't
begin
actually show
at
until you've
2
actually started
minutes, 35
streaming.
minutes. We're
Nope.
about
That's brilliant.
50 seconds away from
I
that.
know.
And so we're getting really, really close to the first launch of astronauts into orbit from American soil since 2011. The launch escape system is armed, which, as you know, happens before fueling. And Dragon propellant load, that's the propellants that are inside of the Dragon capsule, not the rocket.
Okay, so for
Prop
you
load for
guys that are
Dragon
on
took
Twitch,
place
we
on
have
the
had
road, just
Space
a
Lab
few
come and
miles
join
down
us,
the road in what we call
and
Dragon
those
Land.
on
And those
YouTube.
It's
propellants,
broadcasting
they are
live, I believe.
NH, or
Cool, I am
monomethyl hydrogen,
just
which is
checking.
the fuel that we use. It's hypergolic
It's not showing
fuel.
up in yours
And
yet.
NTO, or
but-
Yeah, it's only just
tetroxide,
started.
that's the oxidizer. Those two come together and they ignite in space to
It did take a
propel
while the other
vehicle.
day.
You don't need that T-tab or a third thing to
35
ignite
minutes
because,
to go.
Hypergolic propellants don't require it. You just
Right,
need the fuel
cool.
and the oxidizer. And as you just heard, propellant load has started.
Oh, there we go. It
on
says it's
Falcon
live now,
9.
so I'm gonna.
Right, I'm
All right, so
refreshing.
that
It's.
bipropellant system
I'll put a
is
link in my
all of the
server.
engines on Dragon.
Cool.
So Dragon has 12 service section engines in each. So there's 3 in each quad. 3, 3, 3, and 3. Those are used for
Okay,
on-orbit
guys.
maneuvering for
Just
Dragon.
need
There's
to
also
change
4
the
additional
thumbnail
Dragos
because
that are
it's
underneath the nose
not done
cone
that.
for large delta
No,
V
I can
maneuvers
see.
that the vehicle performs.
Hang on.
But the engines that Nick Pacone was talking about earlier are
I've done
Silver
that.
Draco engines. But the engines
No, I can
that
see.
Nick Pacone was
Hang
talking
on.
about earlier are Silver Draco engines.
There it is.
Those are bigger engines with the high
Save.
vehicle. Those are
And
Dragon off and those are bigger engines with the high flow propulsion.
YouTube, are you going to
Requires us
save?
get off of Dragon, off of Falcon. Now, you probably remember. Let's see, Mercury,
Okay, so
Apollo,
guys,
Soyuz, they have that
those of
big
you that are
pointy
watching on
tower
YouTube,
top.
There we
That's
go.
the launch
The
vehicle.
thumbnail
Those
should have
vehicles,
changed.
it's
awesome.
actually just
I'm
another
going to
rocket
post a
on
link
top
in the
of
description.
the spaceship
Head over to that
that
channel
lifts
as the
the
stream
vehicle
on
off.
this one
In
is
the case
ending
of
and we're
Dragon,
going over
our
to
escape
Space
system
Lab.
is integrated into the vehicle completely.
I
And
full
so
screened
that's
it finally.
just better from one less
Awesome.
thing you have to jettison every single flight.